You did. Well, then I had a hard time convincing people to give you guys overtime. Do you remember that? I mean, I did it sometimes. And just gave you guys nothing. Yeah, everybody's sleeping.
Yeah, and then if there was admissions, he wasn't helping me.
Yeah. Well, you know what? The whole place went to pot for some reason. I even had to get out.
Started out,
It did. Yeah.
A bad thing.
And it could have been nice because, you know what, I always tried to help the employees.
Yeah.
But they gave me such a hard, well, John not so much. He, you know, these people, they work overtime and they would say, well, they didn't have to work overtime. And I said, well, hours are there, you know?
Yeah.
Then they piled everything else on me, workers' comp, FMLA, times, you know, so.
Oh, yeah. Let's see, what did I do after that? I think that's when I did my 5 years at the old.
Yeah.
And then I went back to jail.
Did you went back?
Oh, yeah, I went back to jail. I still think
To the Justice Center,
Yeah.
not to River City.
Oh, no,
Yeah.
I thought about going back to River City, but I don't know.
I don't even know who took it. Yeah. No, I don't do the affirmation. I was the lowest paid personnel person in the county.
Yeah.
It wouldn't, well,
No,
I've been in peace since I should have, well, I wanted to have at least 21, 22 years with the county.
Well, yeah.
They changed it now. What is it, 30 to get?
Oh, I didn't know that.
I don't know, something is 30. Yeah. Their medical is okay. I tell you, my allergies are killing me. It's okay now.
Oh, really? Did not realize she was there. We're gonna hold for a second.
Everybody, please turn and watch the floors.
There you go.
Well, about time.
Everybody get ready.
It's about time.
You look like you got to yourself.
Yeah, I do.
Hey, Linda,
I didn't realize.
you save me a seat.
Thank you, Chuck. Thank you. You know, the lengths I'll go for attention is unbelievable.
Yeah.
The pressure,
My pleasure.
lack of pressure.
Oh, hey, back to
That was the least I could do. Please join me with the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You guys all played into that. You all played into that.
Actually, I think somebody in the back suggested
Oh.
I wouldn't believe the words he had to say. Before we start, I'd like to introduce a couple people. To my right, your left, is our new village clerk, and her name is Penny Williams.
Hi, Penny.
And Penny, I think you're a lifetime resident, graduate of Taylor High School.
Yes.
Oh, wow.
And so we want to welcome you as our new village clerk and council.
Thank you.
And to my left is Rob Merkel, and he is our new village solicitor. Want to say a few words or anything?
Good.
Rob's been working hard, that's all I can tell you. So if we could please, Penny, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Burns. Mr. Walters.
Here.
Ms. Bolton.
Here.
Ms. Meister.
Here.
Mr. Williams.
Here.
Ms. Boyce.
Now, Ms. Boyce is absent today. She's not feeling well. So I would like to see if I have a motion to approve her absence. Mr. Williams makes the motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Ms. Meister, a second. Would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Burns.
Yes.
Mr. Walters.
Yes.
Ms. Bolton.
Yay.
Ms. Meister.
Yes.
Mr. Williams.
Yes. Okay, motion passes 5-0. And so we're just gonna work on down the agenda for tonight. So we need a motion to approve the council minutes for February 14th.
Yeah.
You're gonna make the motion?
No, I was just gonna say that there was a typo and March 14th was inadvertently put on the top. Did that get changed?
I don't know.
It should be February 14th, and I will correct that and get that for her, the corrected copy.
So do we have outside of that issue, do we have a motion to approve the minutes? Mr. Walters makes a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Ms. Bolton seconds. Would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Burns.
Yes.
Mr. Walters.
Yes.
Ms. Bolton.
Yay.
Ms. Meister.
Yes.
Mr. Williams.
Motion passes 5-0. Now we have a motion to approve pay ordinance 3-224. You should have in your packets, you should have that ordinance and also the itemized list of bills. Are there any questions before you want to? Yes, go ahead.
I'm looking at the agenda for February. It looks like she used pay ordinance 1, 2, and 3 at that meeting for each month, November, December, and January.
Okay.
So we would be on pay ordinance 4.
4. So we'll make that. So you're gonna, Penny, you're gonna need to make sure we make that change. So do we have a motion to approve those?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Ms. Bolton, made the motion, second by Ms. Meister, and roll call, Penny, please.
Mr. Burns.
Yes.
Mr. Walters.
Yes.
Ms. Bolton.
Yay.
Ms. Meister.
Yes.
Mr. Williams.
Yes. Okay, there's an error on the agenda, so we need to scratch number 3. That's actually supposed to be the resolution for the permanent appropriations. We'll handle that a little bit later. So we're gonna move on to the public session comment. I know there were 2 people that would like to speak. I just want to read this first. The Village of Cleves Council desires its citizens to participate actively in our meetings. Each participant has 5 minutes to speak to their representatives. Speakers must give their names and address, and Penny will be recording those. That information will appear in the official minutes. Questions for the council should be directed to the mayor. Before ordinances and most resolutions, a topic will be discussed before it is voted on. Once a motion is on the floor in a second, the mayor will ask those in the audience if there are any questions before the members of council vote on the motion. Citizens will be allowed 1 comment or question, and the citizen will have 1 minute to address the council. So who wants to speak? Who would like to speak tonight?
I want to speak.
Now, I know you've got leg issues, so you can do it right there if you want. You
I
want to stay?
can't, okay, no, I'm good. The thing I wanted to speak about, and I was really hoping that,
Mention your name again.
I'm Monica Maddie. I know I scribbled it over there, sorry.
How do you spell your last name?
Maddy.
Perfect, thank you. And let me get your address as well.
118 Porter.
Perfect, thank you.
The main thing I wanted to speak on was this crap that's on Reddit about the people in this village that is being put on there by Kyle Eric Smith. He has again referred to everybody on this council as hillbillies. There's a lot of sexual content on there, which for me, it's very offensive. I'm more concerned about some of these kids getting on there and seeing it because the public can go right to it. And it's very sexual and it's very nasty, vulgar, disgusting. And it shouldn't be said. I know a lot of people on this council, and that's why I wanted Judith to be here, because apparently he claims to be the president of the beautification committee. It's nasty. It's very vulgar. It's very nasty. Aaron's been Snapchatting and saving some of those comments that he's putting on there. And I think he's got multiple personalities, and I think all of them are coming out on his Reddit account. The second thing I want to say is, what is going on with the murder of Amanda? It's been 1 year. We've heard nothing. We are living in a village to where somebody, our neighbor, the guy down the street, somebody that lives across the road, whatever, could be the person that murdered her. I'd just like to know what's going on with it. And that's all that's for.
Those are the two items, correct?
Yeah.
I'm gonna actually defer to our attorney to deal with your first issue,
Thank you.
because quite frankly, I don't know there's anything that can necessarily be done on a private Reddit account, but maybe I'm not. looking
It's not, that's the thing. Anybody can go onto the Reddit account. You could look it up right now and you could read everything on it. So it's not like you have to fill anything out or whatever to go onto it. You could just go to it. So, some high school kid could be reading it and laughing their butt off because you got some guy on there talking about doing some pretty sexual things with another human being. And to another human being. I mean, it's vulgar.
There's really nothing you can do with it but get the platform to take it off as offensive. Legally, you'd have to have who he's discussing specifically, and they would have to be offended, or it technically would have to go further than that. There was malicious and it was reputation damaging, something like that. If it's not, it's just vulgar. I mean,
Well, he's kind of,
but you can complain to Reddit.
but he's the one that I don't know a whole lot about Reddit, but apparently he's the moderator of Reddit. He created the account.
I will look
There's
at it.
two different Reddits. When you look for the Reddit, the Cleves Reddit account, there's two. There's a black one and a white one. He is the white one. And he has slandered this village to no end. When you refer to the village community as a bunch of inbred hillbillies, he's also referred to all the people on this council as hillbillies. None of you have any government experience at all. Okay? I mean, it's beyond ridiculous with him. He acts like a little spoiled rotten kid.
He's lived in Cleves all his life. So
But why is he slandering it so bad?
I'll be
I mean,
honest,
I'm
it doesn't bother me.
Well,
It doesn't
it
bother
might
me
not
if-
bother you, but when you refer to the people that run your village, and that's what I'm saying, when his Reddit account, anybody can go on there, and you're seeing this guy who's saying, well, everybody in this village is a bunch of inbred hillbillies. It's a little bothersome to me, I'm gonna be honest with you.
He's gonna make himself look worse than he's ever gonna make me.
Oh, right now
And
he's,
quite frankly, if I go to court, I might have a hard time convincing somebody I'm not a hillbilly. I don't know. I guess it depends on what you consider a hillbilly.
right.
You just gotta kind of let it. I get it. I've seen people have forwarded me some of the stuff he's
Oh,
posted.
he's nasty.
And some of it is pretty nasty. I don't get offended easily, so
Yeah.
I don't want to really give him the satisfaction of making him feel like I'm
Well,
affected at all by
I'm not
anything
giving
he
him the satisfaction. I've already addressed one issue with him. I'm not afraid to address it again.
But that's probably what he wants, is
And,
attention.
Well, no, he's not getting my attention. I took care of my problem.
Monica, the only thing I would say is there's really, unless I'm wrong, Rob, I don't think there's anything this council can do about it. That's-
Okay, well, you all are aware of the things that he is saying. And, I just wanted to put that out there because I didn't know.
I have just a quick comment. I think this happened a long time ago. When you are on a public forum, on council, you open yourself up to a host of things.
Right.
And I think as Rob can correct me, I think, unless they are malicious and can prove that, there's not much you can. But you as a private citizen, if they were to start to say nefarious things about you or certain things of that nature, you could do that. But us, being on council.
Wait a minute, stop right there. You said I could do that? What could I do?
You as a private citizen can file a civil complaint.
How do I do that?
Well, you would have,
If it's been against you.
it has to be directed.
But it was directed towards me. I'm sure you read his.
I have, I don't.
Well, no. He called me a whack job is what he called me.
Well, and again, irrespective of that, but I mean, if they were to call me that, I would have, the comments would be on me to prove that. But, you know, that I'm not, but at the same token, I'm open to that because I'm in the public.
Right, I understand.
So, and Rob, I think you,
The threshold is a lot higher for public officials. I mean, you have to have a lot more elements to make a libel slander case for the public official.
Okay.
A private citizen can do it, but you gotta kind of weigh what's being said
Mhm.
versus how much that's gonna cost you. And,
Right.
No.
Oh, I
because,
understand.
yeah, you can file suit
As
against
I
anyone.
said,
right
I
now.
already took care of one problem.
Let me address your second one. I have no answer for you. I know back when I first took office, they talked to me and told me how close they were to resolving that issue. I have had no further update, so I can't answer that. It's still an active investigation.
Well, I am in the process of helping Amanda's mom. She now has all the children, and she's been evicted from her home. So I'm taking care of trying to get it together for her so that she can, I'm walking her through everything.
Well, as soon as I know anything, I'll make sure that we're all updated. But right now, it's still a investigation, and even if I had information, I couldn't share it.
Okay. Thank you, though.
Somebody else wanted to speak to that. I'm not sure who it was. Nancy,
I just stand here if that's okay.
you want to be on camera?
Nah, not bad. I'll keep it brief. I don't have any questions, just a comment. Well, two actually. Thank you, Mr. Merkel and Ms. Williams, for entering your service with the Village of Cleves. We do appreciate it and hope it's a long and happy tenure. My only comment is that it has come to my attention very recently that Mr. Ray Hall has entered into the wild, wacky world of retirement. And I don't know how you all plan on moving forward with the village business, but I would like to encourage discussion to return to the old way that we had done it. It was careful, concise, well-reviewed and researched, and it seemed to have worked during my time on council. So that's all I've got. Thank you.
Anyone else want to speak? Just stand and then give your name and address.
No, that's okay. I don't need to be on there. So I've been in touch
gonna lose
with
your
the
job.
mayor back and forth about an issue that I have up on the road that I live on here in Cleves. And I'm just very much wondering what's going to happen about the problems that we have in this area down here with people that are trashing their yards up, garbage everywhere, failure to follow rules that are supposed to be in place for this area. And I'm suffering the effects of having a neighbor that lives next to me that God only knows what they do over there, all hours of the night.
We know what they do.
And, it's become an issue to the point where, I'm a 37-year resident of here. I have 5 kids that went to Taylor High School and graduated from Taylor, okay? And I have put money into my property from the time I moved here till today, I've always done well with keeping my property maintained, and things are clean, and I do whatever I have to do. And all this is doing is destroying my property values because I've got this problem, next to me. And, I don't understand how, we can continue to allow this to go on down here in this community. And basically, because I've seen big changes in this area over the years. And when I moved here, I was on a street with a lot of older couples that were well in age, and I was probably the rowdy one at that point. But, now I'm the old one up there, and, what I'm dealing with up there is a problem. And, are you Ed?
I am.
Okay, so you've actually been up there and seen.
I don't know where there is. Introduce yourself or something.
Okay, I'm Winford Hamilton, okay?
Helps.
And, this camera right here is one of the issues that I had, and I discussed this with Chuck. It's fine that you're having your meetings down here, but there are certain things that are being discussed here that if it goes on camera and anybody in this village can see that. Now, I become,
A victim. I've been your, I've
spectacle
been a victim too.
of what I'm preaching about, because, and then what happens? I'll tell you what happens. Then you have issues with people that think they need to retaliate at that point in time.
Right.
And so you can film your meetings and everything, but at times that can be an issue for the people that are here complaining about problems that they're seeing, and plus, like I said, I've seen this whole area change over the years to the point where, it's obvious that there's a lot of things that are not being enforced, and what are you supposed to do? Are you supposed to just say, okay, well, that's fine and let it go, and then, the next time around, it's something else that goes on. And then, I'd just like to know when it's going to stop, and when the rules are actually going to be enforced once and for all, Now, I'm not about forcing somebody out of their home or anything like that. All I want is for people to have respect for where they live.
Right.
And basically clean their properties up and do what they're supposed to do. When is the last time anybody in this council has made a trip up Main Street?
Is that where you live, sir? What is
No, I live on Pontius.
You live on Pontius?
Yes. I actually, live in the old home that was the Thompson residence. The people that owned the drive-through for years, okay? And, but again, what I just said about Main Street, you go up and down Main Street and it's like, wow, what is going on here? Now, I do see that there are some things happening where people are starting to fix a couple things up, but yet it's bad, and it's a real eyesore to this whole community, and when I've tried to get into reading, the rules and regulations that are supposed to be followed, and I don't see certain things that I thought would be there or whatever, but I do think that, that is one of the things I did see on there, that people are not allowed to do what they're doing up there,
It only gets worse at night.
Oh, and it does get worse at night,
Listen, I agree with you on the whole filming thing, because when I was complaining about 119, which is this property over here, trust me, I got harassed, threatened, guns pulled on me. I had to put up with a lot of crap till they moved. So I completely understand what you're saying.
well,
And you're picking, this council, this group is picking up the garbage that was left from the last council.
and I understand that.
Exactly.
And I do understand that,
So it's gonna take time to get all that straightened
More
out.
than 3 months.
Yeah,
More than 3 months, yes.
yeah.
Yes.
Just to ask the other council members here, does anybody want to answer or ask any questions or make any comments?
I'll make just a couple. I understand your situation, I really do, and having been a long-time resident myself, and also part of that, years ago when we did enforce it, because I used to do what Ed did, many years ago. I think you and he are going to become very good friends. And that's what our expectation is too. I cannot speak to the past, and I won't speak to the past, but I think you need to know that there have been ordinances put in place. It's my understanding that, I guess during COVID, for whatever reasons, they may have been laxed. That may or may not be an excuse or well received. I can't speak to that effect. But, you know, like you, I'm proud of my neighborhood too and this community. And I think we've got the framework to put together a lot of positive changes that are coming. And, you know, it's not gonna take overnight. It is gonna take someone that's gonna be dedicated, and I have spoken with Ed and so forth, and he's gonna do a great job.
Well, and again, the one thing I do want to, emphasize is that, in order to do your great job, you need to walk by walk of every location in this area and see some of the things that people have, what they have done, and I mean, everything from construction that they have done to where they piled their garbage up, back in the woods and different things that it's like, really? I mean, what is the next thing gonna be? Is it just gonna become Rumpty Dump down here? Because that's what people do around here, a lot of them, they think they can just get away with doing whatever they wanna do.
But that's the problem. They were getting away with what they were doing.
Yeah.
Because the previous mayor kind of just, I stood before the previous mayor in here and got called a liar. Because I was lying about the garbage at 119 North Miami. Everybody that drove by here saw that garbage. So the mayor was the only one that didn't see it. So I know exactly how it is, and trust me, it's gonna take a while for these guys to see and get it together.
May I address?
Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, absolutely aware of your issue down there. Actually, yesterday was a 30-day remediation period ending for the issue down there. They failed to do so. So next steps will be happening now. It is a process. It's unfortunate. I will say also, in coming to my position, there were several key factors that were not in place, key measures for, how do you say it? Reprimanding or fining people for, bad behavior per se. We are working towards building those systems back in place again. When I took position about a year ago, I was led to believe these were in place. They were not. So I would write a violation, somebody would not adhere to the violation, then what happens next?
Yeah.
There was no mayor's court, there was no system of fines, there was no anything. So it's basically me saying, hey, don't you do that, them saying, what do you do about it? So it becomes kind of a back and forth issue, but as I said, we are working towards a system that will have measures in place to counteract their behavior. So we're going toward the case. I'll be happy to speak to you afterwards, and my officer over here more pointedly about that exact situation over there. You should know about it. I believe that fully. One thing I will say is, in this community, there are a lot of areas where if I'm on foot walking through every yard, I won't see those backyards where there's trash back there. I'm not legally allowed to go traipsing through people's backyards. I can't do that. So what happens is I rely on the community, everybody here, to report to me, to report to your council members, issues that you know of. At that point in time, I can investigate those, I will investigate those, but I can't simply be executed.
Well, and the only thing I can say about that is that I understand about you not being able to access people's yards and one to another. But again, if you do drive-bys and look at some of what you can actually see from the road, you would be shocked.
I do drive-bys every week. I have a patrol report. I go out for myself. I have very detailed records of what I do. So the problem is you might not be aware of who I have cited for violations already. You might not know that. So it's being worked on.
Yeah.
It's being taken very seriously. I think my job in that position is very serious.
Well,
Can I ask
and
a
I'm glad to
question
hear
real
that.
quick?
Is there anything else?
No, I think that's
Yeah,
it.
absolutely.
When that shed caves in, because it's caving in,
Yeah.
what happens with that next?
So that's a system over there where I'm kind of working through step by step on the issues. Because first is the trash. Obviously, that's a huge thing.
Yeah.
That's worked on. She's told me she plans to demolish that back there. I'm giving her a little bit of grace because she is working towards it. I never want to be the person who then do this right now. That's not fair.
Yeah.
Especially with a history of non-enforcement coming to this point.
Right.
That's not a good way of doing things. That's when you have people saying, who is this guy? What's going on? This is unfair. So I'm trying to work with her and being sympathetic to her cause. She's made good, making her payments for the dumpster rental, which I think is great. So she's working with us. We're working with her also. I think it's a fair way to go about that.
Okay.
Anybody else from council want to make a comment or address something?
Yeah, I do think that, it was Chuck's hope that that residents would start, coming to the zoning inspector, or talking to the mayor, or coming to committee meetings, writing a letter expressing concern about something, and then perhaps we could fix those issues where you wouldn't have to come to council and speak on camera. The hope is that we will resolve issues before they ever become an issue that you have to run to council for. So
Well-
that's what we're working toward, and I can see your concern about being identified and.
The thing with that is the concern is I don't want to have to deal with the situation that could arise from that, you know?
If I can speak that real fast, so I treat all my cases as anonymous. No one ever knows who complained. I always say a citizen complained, or I noticed during my patrol route that XYZ issue is transpiring there. So no one has ever identified. I don't care who asked me to identify. If you ask, I'm not gonna tell. That's just how I operate, because I understand retaliation is a huge thing.
That's how we've always done it.
Yeah.
Now, some people say, well, they're gonna know right away it's you. They're gonna know, well, there's not much we can do about
Yeah.
that, but
Are we gonna get mayor's court back?
I don't know that.
He's working
He's working on those.
I would say this, our village attorney is looking into how that process might work. I had a conversation with Denise Greehouse today. I'm not gonna get into the particulars of that, but I think she understands some of the issues better that we're facing here in Cleves. I do want to say, one of the suggestions I had was to come to our zoning meeting and not come here in public, because we don't tape those. But the issue, I think, comes down, it's not gonna happen overnight. It's got to give them time. They still have time to clean up. They started cleaning up. I had a conversation with Sergeant Carney about it the other day. Evidently, there was a conversation, I'll share it with you privately, that at least the police thought things were going better for whatever reason, but I don't know if that really took place. I can just share it with you privately at the meeting. But we are committed. This is a good council. They are interested in knowing what the residents' concerns are. We're not interested in having you have retribution come your way. Seriously, I would think that would be a very, very bad mistake on your part. How quickly this is all going to come together, I can't tell you, but I have, and Linda's on our finance committee. She transferred money into our legal account, because this one that you're referring to, I've already given the directive that if they don't have it cleaned up, they're going to court downtown Cincinnati. Now, the problem with that is, I think I may have explained this to you before, but for the public that are listening out there, the village is going to have to pick up the cost if somebody cannot afford an attorney. So we will incur their legal fees. We will incur our legal fees. And even if they're fined, the Village of Cleves will not get a penny. And that's okay. If we can get some people to start complying with our ordinances and that, if that's what it takes to get people to understand that they can't just do whatever they want to do and dump wherever they want. And I can tell you, I do drive Main Street almost every day. And I think Ed can attest, I gave him pictures of issues on that street just yesterday. And if you go up the hill from where you are on the left, there is a white school bus that is sitting up. You can't even figure how they got it there. But I went back on that property, and there are about 4 pickup trucks and vehicles up there that are hidden. It is fully trashed up on top of that hill, and it's a private drive that comes straight off East State. You wouldn't even know that house was there. So I agree with you that there's people doing just about whatever they want to do. That is not the village we want.
Has there been the thought of possibly sending out anything in the mail to the residents about saying, hey, we've got a new man in town, and we are going to start enforcing some rules here.
That definitely will be happening. When it's going to happen, I I think that's the discussion that we need to have probably in zoning committee meetings and probably in finance committee meetings. Yes, go ahead.
I just want to ask, I want to ask one question, almost to the point where and Linda, you can help me out. Years ago, when I worked as Ed was doing it, if we found a home that was in deplorable condition and was abandoned and so forth, we actually had an ordinance to demolish that. The cost was then absorbed on the property. Whomever bought that, that cost was associated with the property taxes. I'm thinking, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, those that don't comply, we can, and because of the ordinance, if it's still in effect, or if there's one, that will allow us to go in and then take that, just like we used to cut grass when it got too high.
Right.
And put that on their property taxes as well, or on a bank if
You do an assessment.
You do an assessment.
I was on a citizen planning and zoning person with you, and I believe that those demolitions that did take place were done via grant money. The
Some of
only
them were.
ordinance I recall regarding,
Grants, correct.
yeah, the only ordinance I remember regarding abandoned deplorable conditions was that the windows had to be boarded up, and if the porch or the entryway was in bad shape, the access had to be not repaired, but guarded so no one could try to get up there. That's my only recollection.
I do believe we actually acquired some of the property because
That's what.
homeowner signed them over to us. The Village of Cleves became the owner of the property, we demolished them. I don't know what we did with those properties, if they're still around.
You tried to sell some of them at one
Several
point.
were up on Mount Nebo Road, I do remember that.
There was the train depot, if you recall.
Yeah.
And, you know, the fact that you couldn't really board that up is because the whole structure was imploding and it was a safety issue, hazard. Same way with the other couple houses that we demolished. I can't remember the streets, but you're correct. We did do that.
Yeah.
We got a grant to do some, and then we paid for some and we acquired the property, they signed over the deed.
When are planning and zoning meetings, and are we having residents
Third Thursday of the month,
third Thursday? Okay. And is there a resident?
they're all open to the public.
No, I mean, we had residents.
No, this is a
Volunteers.
committee right now, a planning and zoning committee of council,
Okay.
but we are discussing, the possibility of a planning and zoning commission,
Gotcha.
which is totally different and would have residents on.
Okay.
We're in
Thank
the
you.
middle of trying to decide what the best scenario for the residents is. So,
I'm assuming that time is 7 p.m. as well?
6:30.
Okay. Thanks
Planning
much.
and zoning is 6:30. Finance committee is the fourth Wednesday of the month at 7.
You had that all posted on the website.
We're gonna get it posted.
No, those are on the website already.
They are on the, thank you.
Just to add to that, I've had conversations, I have a meeting coming up next week with Hamilton County Zoning and Planning, and I addressed the issue of demolition. I have a lot to learn. That's all I can tell you. And this is a different world for me than school world. But, so I have had those conversations. I know the fire department has condemned about 4 or 5 homes already that,
In the Village of Cleves, Chuck?
Yep, and there's some up on Spring Street, there's some up on, hold on, it would be, Cleves Avenue. They will not fight any fires. They're in such bad condition and so dangerous, and the homeless are in that area that they will not go into them. So I actually have had some of those conversations, but like we've heard before tonight, it's gonna take time. We wanna make sure we do it the right way. I had a conversation with Mr. Merkel on the way out here specifically about, you know, how you put the fines onto the taxes. He's doing the research for that. So we'll get there, but we're sort of like rebuilding from scratch, the infrastructure that has not operated.
Well, one thing I will add, that's one that is a highlight to this situation is, they had a sewer line that was leaking and it run straight across the front of my property. And, thankfully, I guess when MSD researched it, they determined that part of that was on them. And they actually sent a crew in there and dug it all up and fixed it, and that stopped that problem. So that is a highlight of that. So I don't know, because here's the one thing that happened even with that. It originally started out as what we brought it up, and his brother and I discussed it, Ron, anyway, his brother, Gordon, my neighbor. But anyway, we thought it might have been a water line leak, okay? Well, when I called the waterworks, they determined that it was not on them, and that's as far as they went with that. Well, when I called them back to ask them about it, I said, so what happened here? And they said, oh, we think it might be a sewer leak. He said, you can call MSD if you want. And I thought, I can call MSD? But I did. Well, when MSD did come out and look at it, they took care of it. And they were on it like an assault force, And so I that worked out good because, I'm glad that I do not have raw sewerage flowing past my house now, on the street. But honestly, if MSD had not done their part, I would still have that going on.
Just so you understand, I had a conversation with our water department and instructed them, since we now don't have a village administrator, I actually had that initial discussion with him. I believe we should have called MSD, and that was my direction to him. Secondly, because I spoke to you about it, I called them, Ed called them. There were multiple conversations to get them to do what they needed to do, because they didn't just do it. I agree, they did a great job, but it wasn't like they were running out here to do that. They were getting pressure from the village.
Well, and I appreciate that because, that was another issue that, was not very pleasant to deal with. And thankfully, we've had a couple of good rains since it got fixed. So
just so the residents know, it was so bad, it was going down into the stormwater, which we were ready to call the EPA.
Well, I'm gonna tell you right now, when it rained just last couple of days ago, the property next door to us and Aaron's property looked like a pond.
I'm aware of that. Is there anyone else out there who wants to say anything before we move on to the regular agenda? Thank you. Thank you both of you for speaking today.
And I appreciate your guys' efforts to happen.
Are we gonna, do we have to have a village
Well,
administrator?
we're gonna have this discussion here in just a little bit. I do want to make a statement before we go on to the next part of my mayor's report. Mr. Ray Hall has retired. We as a council wish him well, good health and happiness in that environment. No matter whether you are pro Mr. Ray Hall, anti Mr. Ray Hall, that the man deserves to be respected even yet here today. So I prefer, as we're talking about the discussion of the position of village administrator, that this not become something where, now if somebody wants to say good, I'm okay with that, but I really prefer not being in a position where we are criticizing him for whatever, because a lot of what he could do and maybe did do or didn't do, and I actually have brought the statutes with me today, the mayor has a whole lot to do with that. The mayor is the one who under Ohio Revised Code is supposed to report to, and the mayor is the one who is supposed to be making sure that he is doing what needs to be done. So we're going to go with that, and I do want to have a discussion, because I don't think it's a discussion that should be limited just to this group here, no matter what happens as far as the future of whether we have an administrator or we don't have an administrator. I am not going to take a position on that. That is not my role, but it is council's role And we had one council member left that was here at the time that they created the village administrator, and that's Ms. Meister. And she may or may not want to comment about what the reasons were why they established that position. But by Ohio law, if you don't have an administrator position, you have to have a water group. And there isn't any there's no middle ground here. You gotta either have it or you don't. So I think right now, I don't know if the council needs to see the actual job description, but I brought them with me today. If you would like copies of the job description, I'll be glad to hand those out. And maybe that would guide you in your discussion.
How old are those job descriptions?
This is the original one and the only one.
Wow. From 8 years ago, so 2015.
I don't think
Yeah,
I'd be,
2015.
I don't think this is
yeah, I don't think I'd be interested in looking at what was so much as
moving
what
forward.
moving forward, should we elect to or decide to have one going forward, what those job responsibilities are. I envision something entirely different than what I was accustomed to with our, how many years, eight years or something? 8 or 9 years, but, you know, I personally don't need to.
The only thing I would say to you is I have that, and I have talked to other villages. They're very similar.
Okay.
They're not dissimilar. There may be a few more things that they require, and there's others that require less. So I'm just gonna turn it over to council. I think it's your opportunity to sort of get your ideas on the table. And the community that's sitting out there watching tonight, how many of them there are, I have no idea, but we average about 31 subscribers, and there's others that watch it just online. They tell me they watch it. So it's up to you guys right now to open that up and what your thoughts are.
I'll start the conversation with, I was here when we went with the village administrator. Back at that time, we had our own police department. I think the maintenance department had a few more employees than what we have now. So that had a lot to do with going with the administrator, was the oversight, the supervision of the day-to-day operations. Having someone responsible for that versus council committees trying to oversee that.
Or the mayor.
Or the mayor, yeah. And there was, at that time, there was some disparities between the waterworks and the village employees. You know, the waterwork, as far as pay scales, were so much different, and we wanted to have more consistency. We wanted to have more oversight across the board. So that is what a lot of what the thought was when we went with the village administrator. Now, moving forward to where we are currently, there's pros and cons to both. We don't have as many employees because we don't have our own police department, so there's not that aspect of the oversight, but there is still the day-to-day operations, and we need to think about moving forward in the future, having a village administrator that handles the day-to-day operations, the seeking out the grants, you know, those type of things, the employee evaluations. Right now we have Chuck, who's retired and has got all the time and energy to contribute to doing as much as he is, but it's a 4-year term, so we gotta think about moving forward down the future. You know, if our next mayor is somebody that's younger and still full-time employed, they may not have the time to do everything that Chuck's doing, and they may need to rely more on somebody else. The thought was brought up, or it was mentioned about maybe like an administrative assistant type of position, somebody to assist the mayor, but that's another thing that, you know, an employee like that come and go, and you're not gonna have a lot of consistency. I think, for my opinion, I've gone back and forth and I've given it a lot of thought, but I think as far as maintaining continuity and consistency as we move forward, I am for replacing the village administrator. And I am open to reviewing what we had originally established as the job description and modifying that as we see fit moving forward.
All right, also, I've also put a whole lot of thought into this. And I want to start out by just stating some facts. The current full-time village administrator, or the one that just retired, was making $75,900. Their salary was divided up 60% by the waterworks, 40% by the village. So if you divide that up, the waterworks was paying $45,540 of their salary. The village was paying $30,360. If you divide that up by hours worked, the village was paying for 16 hours a week of village administrator duty toward village business. The waterworks was paying for 24 hours a week toward the oversight and running and maintenance of the water department. So we've never paid for a full-time village administrator. Most of the burden is on the backs of the waterworks. Their budget's getting tighter as well. My question would be, I would want to see exactly how much time a village administrator is putting toward village business. And is the waterworks covering our butts on that? Because frankly, I think the water department runs solely on user fees and water fees. And they service residents outside of this village. There's people who live outside of this village paying the water bills. So my question then would be, we could reinstate a Board of Public Affairs. You could pay a president of the Board of Public Affairs $300 a month, $400, whatever. You could pay the two other representatives what council's making. The burden on the water department would be about $7,200 a year versus the $45,000 they're currently paying. And then you would have three people that oversaw the operation of that water utility. Those three people would run it, make the decisions, and the village could work on other issues that are so important for us to work on. I also see that as being a fair way to make sure that water users are being treated fairly and that their money isn't compensating village business, because that's not what it's supposed to do. We would have to reinstate a street commissioner, which we always had. It used to be an employee in the past, John Knuff possibly, but it was John Booth has done it. Eric Davis did it for a while. Eric Davis. You know I'm a Reds fan, don't you? Eric Winhusen. So we would have to instate a street commissioner, and then we could decide what other village needs might we be able to meet with an employee, creating a new position of sorts. You know, I just feel we 3,500 people, 1,000 households, and we're looking at a village administrator and paying them $75,000. We got to look at where our revenue comes from. Other villages maybe be getting business revenue. Addiston has INEOS. My husband's worked there for years and years. He pays an income tax to Addiston. So you can't always even compare yourself to other villages because you don't know where their revenue's coming from. You don't know how much revenue. Ours coming on the backs of taxpayers. I would love to debate this topic further. I think it needs more than just a little discussion because I wasn't part of the role that made the decision. I'm not saying it was a bad one at the time, but things have changed. We don't have a police department anymore to be supervised. So we have a village administrator that would supervise maintenance and park. I don't know. That's just my thoughts.
I'll be real brief. I kind of support the water board, the institute of the water board, simply because, again, I think, just as Linda has said, that, you know, their source of revenue is the Village of Cleves and other residents outside the Village of Cleves, but also the fact that there's one critical thing that I think we did. We actually moved our well fields from over here at Chevron, now over here to Kilby, and you know, are you familiar with the wellhead protection program? And that's contamination to well water. And so subsequently the board, back when we had that, was responsible for that. Now the administrator in the past, I don't know how much they dealt with that. maybe Eric dealt with a lot of that possibly, and I'm sure he did. But I felt more inclined to have a board of citizens and the licensure of the, that Eric had, and there's people that they could talk to make sure that that was being protected. With the development over there off Kilby Road, you know, Cleves, I think, has a say in what gets developed there because a lot of the runoff goes into the well water there. And I thought that they were trying to acquire, maybe you'll correct me if I'm wrong, trying to acquire a lot of land so that we could kind of protect our wellheads. And I don't know what's going on with that. The other thing that I think that was brought up to me was the fact that there's a succession program that I think that they have brought in line with a lot of the employees getting their certification in like Eric has, for the fact that if he does retire or whomever, there would be a succession there, kind of continuance of experience. So I kind of like that idea, but I'm open to suggestions as well.
Any other comments from council?
That point, to protect the wells, they got a covenant that other things can't be developed on it. That's already been exceeded. There's no purchase of property. My thinking is aligned basically with what Ms. Meister said. That I don't know why I'm choking on the words. I'm sorry. That if we have a principal executive being the mayor elected, our options are essentially the electors of this village who are willing to run for office, who are willing to take the job for $6,000 a year and execute everything we need to execute on that salary. And if that, it's not set in stone who has what role a council member can write a grant. Do they normally have the time? Not on average. A council person cannot supervise however many employees we do have. And we are not able to properly direct the activities of our employees either. So us going out, like, here's a problem, here's a problem, here's a problem, here's a problem. So to the extent that that's going to happen, that seems to be a function of the executive branch. And again, it's a huge burden to put on one person
And the mayor used to do it.
who's at a volunteer rate. I think we should have a little optimism on what a $60,000 to $75,000 employee can buy with the right ambition and training. This is another employee for Cleves in general, right? Their activities are broad. There was times where Mike was running the streets with people, fulfilling the duties as stated in the job description and all over the place. And yes, conducting activities with the waterworks. So it's another instance where you have to pay for that person to exist for them to execute those functions. And it's not bad to have another person on hand. The other thing that I would highlight is that I think these piecemeal approaches are going to be more challenging than you can see. I don't know the specifications on who a water board member needs to be. If it has to be a resident, again, same. I'd love to have that information. If it has to be a resident, then we're counting on the water expertise of our 3,300 citizens, about 1,800 adults. And not that we can't all rise to the occasion, or the equation is, but then we're banking on that. And it's my opinion that you're not going to get a part-time, we discussed in finance, a part-time administrator. The administrative assistant comment was news to me, that we discussed a part-time administrator, we discussed a part-time grant writer, a part-time parks administrator. I don't think people are going to sign up for these gigs and do a good job.
We didn't call it that, but we did discuss possibly hiring another person to assist them.
Yeah. We use different terms like office manager / grant writer, but yeah.
Yeah, so, and like part-time HR person, so, it's possible to break out those functions, I firmly believe. My intuition is that it's going to be more difficult than we want. And frankly, that it'll be flipped. It's like, oh, $5,000 for this, psh, see you later. Not just from the mayor, but from our part-time employees. So that's my consideration. The part-time business will be difficult, and that's continuity and just paying somebody to be there full-time is a more sturdy approach.
I don't know how much water experience anybody that comes in to be a village administrator might have, unless they've been a village administrator before for a village with a waterworks. So I don't know that three educated residents, especially if like Jim Wasserbauer was on our board of public affairs, they had a lot of experience in that area.
He's an engineer.
He's a engineer, yeah. So I think you never know what's possible. You never know if you'd even get a qualified village administrator that would have any water experience. But I agree.
The difference on that point is that it would be their job to catch up on them. And they would be paid on the job to get up with water regulations. Whereas if you're a part-time board member, yes, that's still your obligation, but do you have the same benefit? That's the concern. Sorry to interrupt you.
No. I'm just stating, unfortunately, I have lots of years of experience when we didn't have a village administrator, and things actually worked pretty well. I wasn't a party to a lot of the discussion that went on in executive session the last year that I was there about bringing a village administrator in. So I don't know what all the intricacies of that involve. But that is one of the things that I might solicitor would also educate me on. What powers and authority does a village administrator take away from the current mayor and council? And the fact that our village administrator, and I don't want to beat him up, I really don't. I'm a person that wants to move forward. But he signed a contract on our behalf for $260,000. And I was stunned by that. I thought, how can someone have the authority to do that? Clearly, we can control that by ordinance and only give them authority to sign so much. But often the person that comes into that job won't be a village resident, and I would question how dedicated they might or may not be to that job. But I'm open to consider other options. I just don't, if we're paying for 16 hours a week for a village administrator, then I think that's all we should use. I don't think we should burden the waterworks to pay for any of our burden. So we might be looking at
into the actual job description if we do go what Ms. Meister just referred to. And we can make that job description basically what we want it to be. You don't have to be, I don't think, the current split. You guys can decide that. Rob?
I've never seen this job description. So
How much work is within?
none of us were around then really to see.
Chuck, can you distribute that job description to all of us later?
Yeah.
You just email it to everybody so that everybody has it to review.
Because on top of that salary is pension and our contribution toward pension and any medical that person would require as well. So it doesn't just end at the amounts that I had here.
Any other comments from council? Any comments from our people here tonight? Very well, thank you very much for listening, and we will move on. And right now, somebody has to supervise. And someone has to be, it cannot be me. The way it works is the village is technically, as far as the council is concerned, and me as mayor, is I am not to have my fingers in that area. So I spoke with Mr. Merkel about this. He's a lawyer. He really works for the council. He doesn't work for me, he works for the council. And at the same time, so did Mr. Rayall. So I felt that we needed a temporary person to give us time to work through this, not only on council, but with the community. Because when I was out campaigning, there's still the question, why do we need an administrator? I hear it all the time. Now, I have my own views on that. I'm not going to share it here right now, but I do have my own view. And that view is from understanding a little bit better what it takes to run a village. And I'm not telling you I know everything right now, but there's a lot of hours to that. And so I think it would be good to let the community have their say of what they think. They're going to have to make a decision. I don't want it going on forever. So we're going to have to move forward. So what I would like to do, and I think the council has an ordinance, I think the public should have a copy of it, that I recommend that we appoint a temporary director to supervise the water department. Now, that's going to be limited in hours. I know that Eric and Rob have already talked. He is physically incapable of being here full-time at this point. But you can do a lot of supervision with somebody just by having conversations. And I think pretty much Eric ran the water department anyhow. And we have experienced people there, so I don't see it as a problem, but there are contracts that have to be signed. There's work that needs to be done. It needs to be done with some oversight by somebody who knows, at least knows where to find the information. So I would entertain any conversation from the council as to what your views are on that, but we gotta have somebody.
Do we have information on the urgency of that appointment?
I'll defer it to Mr. Merkel because I don't know what the urgency is.
No, I don't have the answer. I'm not positive on the urgency. It depends on what all was entailed in what Mr. Ray Hall did. And that's,
I think you had a conversation with him on that. Did you not?
Yeah, I might have a conversation with him, but I mean, I didn't detail a whole lot of information.
Well, we know the whole idea is to keep the village council and legislature and government out of the hands of the water utility. So Chuck is right, he can't do it. So somebody else in the meantime, until we figure out how we want to move forward, has to do it.
So have you spoken with Mr. Rahal since his retirement, in the sense of what open ends does he have that need to be closed that are still hanging? That might address some of the urgency to the effect that are there contracts to be signed, written, grants that we need? What is the immediate urgency in the sense that what's open?
I had some conversations along those lines, and he did send me some information, very little on the waterworks. So I don't know the answer to that question, and that's one of the reasons why I had Mr. Merkel have a conversation with him. I wasn't part of that conversation, so the only one I could refer to is Mr. Merkel. So
What he explained to me was the management of the employees, approving purchase orders for equipment that they needed, approving their work schedules and paychecks, things like that. He wasn't overly involved that much.
I feel perfectly comfortable with temporarily assigning our village solicitor to take over that role in the interim, if that's what your recommendation is at this time. You still got employees that have to be supervised, so somebody's got to do it. Correct? I mean,
What's Eric's role in this? In the absence of you, I mean,
Oh, no,
I'm not objecting, I'm just
you're
saying,
not,
What-
no problem with me.
what would Eric's role be?
I think it's the same role he had with Mr. Rahal, and I don't know exactly what that role was. He is the superintendent of the water works.
And
You
you
were-
line authority, or does he have line authority?
Well,
he has to report to somebody, and he can't be
you,
there.
you,
In
he had
the absence
to
of the
report to the
water
water board,
Correct.
and so it's the same principle. He's got to report to somebody.
That's what I'm trying to establish here, is the line authority, and then under him, as far as day-to-day operations, he helped facilitate that through statement.
That's what I think.
And then you would help facilitate
Eric,
that.
yes, Eric is the one with the license.
Correct.
But, yeah.
Any other comments from council?
This temporary resolution only goes through April 12th forever. And why
Or
is
until,
that?
or until you guys make,
I was gonna say, why is that limited to that?
It's fast
I don't know
approaching.
that you want to go longer than that. I think you should be making a decision.
Well, we will be making a decision, but that's the next council meeting.
Well,
And we couldn't even have a public hearing in between then and now, or between now and then.
you don't think you can pull together a public hearing? I could pull a public hearing together next week.
Once we decide which route we're going to go, if we go with the village
Yeah.
administrator, then we have to.
You have to advertise.
No, I understand.
You got interview, advertise.
And it doesn't mean that you can't extend that. I'm not saying that.
I
But
don't know that I would put a specific end date there. I do
then
believe
leave,
that
then leave it on open. I mean, we can determine that.
I would be comfortable putting 3 months, you can always readdress that. I just know from hiring at where I work, nobody gets hired really quickly anymore. It's a process, you gotta go through the interviews, you gotta advertise for the job, you gotta, and that can't be done between now and April 12th, I wouldn't think.
And that I agree with, but that wasn't my concept. My concept was we need to get going, and I didn't want to make this a long, open-ended. I felt you guys had to have something here to start with. How you finish it is up to you.
Is it too early to make a motion?
Well, I would like to, if a motion's made, I want to extend that April 12th date. If you only want to extend it one more month, fine. I would be tempted to extend it.
I would say, if anything, do it for a term of 3 months.
That's what I was
depending
thinking.
on council's decision and.
Because you can always end it, you can rescind it early if you find the right candidate. Make a decision, find the right candidate, and you can always rescind it early.
So if we went the route with the water board, those were elected officials, correct?
You're appointed now, so you,
Because we don't have,
That's
how we would appoint.
they would be appointed and approved by the village council, and then they would
Specific
have to
term.
stand for an election.
Then after that, they would be elected.
And I have that statute here too, that outlines that process.
I think the best interest, and this is my opinion, I mean, the continuity of the best interest, there does need to be an oversight and a continuance. And I'm comfortable with our solicitor doing so. Although I agree with Linda and Jerry, formalities, I put my last, my point being is, I think we go longer if necessary, because we're not cut our nose off to spite our face. We can just take that back, I'm okay with that too. But for whatever reasons, trying to find the appropriate candidate, give us some time just beyond that.
Do you remember, Jerry, how long it took to find Mr. Rahal?
I believe it was a couple months, a minimum a couple months. Because
Was he the only candidate?
No,
No.
we interviewed, I think what we did was we narrowed down 3 of the applications. We narrowed down to our top 3, and then we did the interviews, and then we had to do the background check, and then we didn't have 4 interviews. We didn't just do just one interview. There were multiple. That was when I had my back surgery, so the second round of the interviews, I conference called in. But, yeah, it was not a quick process.
Any comments from the people of the audience?
Good luck.
Yeah.
Somebody needs to tell me how long and when that post, go ahead, Kelly.
Is, I'm struggling to come up with one, but has anybody considered potential conflicts from him wearing both hats? Right? It's, the situation is weird for one thing. It's like, well, if we got a new lawyer, let's make him a water director. It's a bit weirder, not knowing me personally yet, so. But is there a situation where the solicitor brought to bear on the doings of the water works?
I can't think of anything, but I'm not the attorney. So I think you gotta go back to your attorney and ask him that question.
Do you feel like it's any conflict of interest
If
for
it's
you
two
to
separate
attend?
entities and the village can't be involved, and there's no conflict to start with, then there's not a conflict as of right now. I mean, can a conflict pop up with anything? Yes. Could the village, I guess, sue the water department? Then, yeah, you possibly have.
Then there'd be a conflict.
Then there'd be a conflict.
But you would know immediately, and you would be able to say to us, I can't represent them, they need to have an attorney.
We have to conflict out.
Okay, I got you.
For the most part, Eric runs the day-to-day stuff, but Eric needs someone
To report.
above him, if he needs questions, if he needs help,
What's his, Eric's authority to sign something? Let's say we have a piece of equipment that breaks down and it needs to be replaced. You would have authority over it.
That's what Great Hall said that he did.
Okay,
But that was allowed.
and so in the absence of that, I guess it would kind of sit until we get somebody that could approve that.
Well, no, he would do it if we approved it.
In the absence of,
Yeah,
in the absence of, then we'd have to sit until something of that nature, and I think that'd be effective. I'd like to make a motion that we adopt this.
Then it's gonna amend the date.
I'd like to amend the date too, as well as extend it, but, you all put a cap on it, I would say 3 months.
so extended from April to June 12th?
I would think it's 3 months to the next council meeting, so,
To make it
so we can actually do something about it. If it's the day before.
Even to extend it,
I don't
we
want
have to.
correct.
So the 12th was a Friday.
so the June council meeting would be the 12th. Wednesday, June the 12th is the second Wednesday.
So make it the 13th so that nothing expires before we. Or June 12th at midnight.
We all turn into pumpkins.
You can do it through June the 13th, and then that way, if,
Yep.
you need more time,
June
you can
13th.
I make that motion.
I'll second it.
So you have a motion by,
Is this resolution number
What
6?
number it is?
Penny? Okay.
and this is, a motion is made by Mr. Walters, seconded by
Ms. Bolton?
Ms. Bolton.
It's 6/2/2024.
So would you call the roll, please?
Yes, Mr. Burns,
Yes.
Mr. Walters,
Yes.
Ms. Bolton,
Yes.
Ms. Meister,
Yes,
and Mr. Wood.
Motion passes 5-0. We have another resolution that we create the Cleves Zoning Appeals Board for appeals hearing. This for the public to know and understand. Ed was present for this. I think Mr. Walters was present. We had pending appeals coming our direction, but we had no venue to do that. It's already an ordinance. We're just looking at reestablishing that framework. Any comments from council about that?
Well, the appeals board is just that, so that if there is a need for a variance that you feel strongly that you would want, say for example, I'm sorry, I'm just going blank right now, or, yeah, let's say, an idea of a variance that they would need, that planning and zoning could not approve, they would have to go back to the appeals board, and that board then would either grant or deny the variance. And I'm trying to give an example.
So currently our cases in the village are now fences, for example. Some people want fences in certain places and other people, neighbors disagree with that. The property owner who wants to erect the fence could come before the appeal board and ask for a variance to have a 6-foot fence when normally a 4-foot fence would be allowed. That'd be an example.
And the appeals board consists of all residents, is that correct?
That is
No legislative body. And they only hear appeals.
correct. Only appeals.
They only hear appeals, so they don't have to meet all the time, they meet when there's an appeal.
Exactly right.
And there's going to be a total of 5,
I'm sorry,
there's going to be a total of 5
there's 5.
people that we're going to be.
And we have to go, since they're staggered terms, we have to vote on each one separately, and many of them are here this evening. So, I think if we approve the first one, then we probably just need to move on to do the then in order.
Did they get sworn in, Chuck?
They, I don't know the answer to that.
I don't
Huh?
I'm.
The answer is yes.
Perhaps they do. And if they're here, we might as well take care of it tonight if they want to do. Or else you can wait till the first time they gather.
We're gonna have to swear them in anyhow, so if they're here, I can imagine we'll just get it. I don't know that I've got the language for that tonight.
No, that's fine.
Yeah, but, I probably could draft something quickly.
Can we meet each person before we vote on them?
There's people here tonight.
I know there are, so.
If we could maybe get this motion to create the board first, that would be good, and then we'll introduce the people that are here.
I'll make that motion to create a Cleves Board of Zoning Appeals.
Do I have a second?
Is this a motion or is it a resolution?
It's a motion to approve this
Okay.
resolution.
You got a second from me.
Okay. Second by Ms. Bolton, and the motion was made by Ms. Meister. So would you call the roll, Karen?
Mr. Burns,
Yes.
Mr. Walters,
Yes.
Ms. Bolton,
Yes.
Ms. Meister,
Yes.
Mr. Williams.
Yes.
Okay, the next resolution involves Ted Babel, who's standing here right now. You guys have met him before. Maybe Ted, if you want to stand before the people here and tell us a little bit about your background.
Where do you live?
Ted Babel, I've been a member, I lived in Cleves for 41 years, 41, 42 years now. I live up in Westgate. If you drive up Westgate and you find a house with solar panels on it, that's my house. I also served on the fire department for 8 years, and I was building zoning enforcement officer for 7 years. I served after Mr. Meister gave me the job. So I got the job from Mr. Meister here. So, like I said, I've been a member. My kids didn't go to Taylor. My granddaughters went to Taylor, so I got an investment in the community here.
Any questions from council?
Thank you.
So we're just gonna introduce the people who are here tonight. Nancy, you want to stand?
Sure. Nancy Nichols, been here for about 28 years. Anyway, it seems so long. I'm a neighbor of Ted's up in the Westgate subdivision. And my kids both went to Taylor. I've served on council and I was on the planning and zoning committee. I was also a resident volunteer on the planning and zoning commission. I'd like to see as much done for the village is possible and be part of that if it's possible, and that's about it.
Thank you very much. Any questions from council? Thank you, Nancy. Dawn, you want to introduce yourself?
Dawn Richardson, I've lived in Cleves for about 30 years. Our daughters went to Taylor High School, both graduated. I've tried to help with the community as much as I can, and I'm looking forward to seeing all the improvements that are gonna happen. It's been a while.
Where do you live?
Tiny,
So you're across,
yes, I'm across the tracks.
oh boy. You're on the other side of the track.
Yes.
Cleves
And
West.
across the tracks.
Cleves West.
Sylvia? You wanna-
West side, east side.
I'm Sylvia Strigari. We have lived on Laurelwood Drive for about 25 years. I taught grade school until my children came, and then after they grew up, I worked at the Hamilton County Treasurer in the Real Estate Division. And then I went on to River City Correctional Center and ran the Human Resources Department. So we've been here, like I said, 25 years, happily. And I just wanted to get involved a little bit more now that I am retired. My husband's retired. He was former public defender for the Hamilton County Public Defender's Office. So I don't know if Mr. Merkel even knew him. Rooster Guard. Yeah, so, and he's semi-retired now. Still does some work, thank God, to get him out of the house.
You're on camera now.
Yeah.
Remember that?
He's sleeping, believe me. He's sleeping. He's been tired a long time ago. So,
I'm sure he sees it though.
oh yeah, that's it. You know, I say it all the time. You gotta get out, man. And that's about it. Just glad to be here. I'm glad to give any assistance I can to the council and the community.
I'm going to be here too.
Thank you.
And I need to get these in order because you'll be putting the numbers on depending on which one this is. So we're gonna start with Ken Battle. I put him in for a 1-year term. Just so you guys understand,
I'm the old guy.
Only 4 here.
it's staggered. So if he wanted to continue, you can just,
Somebody's not.
extend it the following year, once your term expires. All terms expire on the 31st of December on any given year. So on the first one, for Ted Babel, his term would expire on December 31st, 2024. Do I have a motion to approve?
And this is gonna be resolution number 7, is that correct?
Number 7.
I'll make
No,
that
yeah,
motion.
number 7.
I'll second.
Motion was made by, excuse me, you can't remember your name, would you?
After what you did to me, I guess.
Mrs. Bolt.
I haven't forgotten.
And a second by Ms. Meister. Would you call the roll, please?
Yes. Mr. Burns?
Yes.
Mr. Walters?
Yes.
Ms. Bolton?
Yes.
Ms. Meister?
Yes.
And Mr. Williams?
Yes.
And then resolution number 8. This is from Judy Melchian. Judith could not be here. She's out of town. She apologizes. Her term would expire on December 31st, 2025. One of the things I tried to do at this Bolton's suggestion is to make sure we got as many neighborhoods represented as possible. So she's in the SUV subdivision. Anybody have any questions? Do I have a motion to approve her?
I'll make that motion.
Motion's made by Mrs. Bolton. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Ms. Meister. Roll call, please.
Mr. Burns?
Yes.
Mr. Walters?
Yes.
Ms. Bolton?
Yes.
Ms. Meister?
Yes.
Mr. Williams?
The next one will be resolution number 9. And that one is going to be Nancy Nichols, and her term would expire December 31st, 2026. Do you have a motion to approve her nomination?
I'll make that motion.
Mr. Walters makes the motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Ms. Meister. Please call the roll, please.
Mr. Burns?
Yes.
Mr. Walters?
Yes.
Ms. Bolton?
Yes.
Ms. Meister?
Yes.
And Mr. Williams?
Yes. Resolution number 10 is to approve Dawn Richardson. Her term will expire December 31st, 2027. Do I have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Ms. Bolton makes the motion. Mr. Williams seconds. Penny, call the roll, please.
Mr. Burns.
Yes.
Mr. Walters.
Yes.
Ms. Bolton.
Yes.
Ms. Meister. Yes. Mr. Williams.
Yes. Our last resolution is resolution number 11 to appoint Sylvia Strigari, and her term would expire December 31st, 2028. Do I have a motion? Mr. Williams makes a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Bolton. Would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Burns.
Yes.
Mr. Walters.
Yes.
Ms. Bolton.
Yes.
Ms. Meister.
Yes.
And Mr. Williams.
Yes. Motion passes 5-0. So, let me get back into my agenda here. Okay. On this discussion about a possible resolution to pay for members of the zoning appeal board, I'd like to table that tonight. I know there's some disagreement as to what it ought to be. So I think maybe that's another discussion that takes place in the zoning committee before we come back to that, but we will address that next meeting. So the next one is to, I want to give you an update because at the last meeting, the fire department asked me where we were as far as the signaling device. For those of you that are not aware, there's been an issue of the Mount Nebo Fire Department and EMS getting into the village being held up by the railroad. I had a meeting set up with the fire department and the railroad and got split up. Okay, so they did not meet with us. I drafted a letter to them. They have not responded to the letter. So at some point here, I'm going to be asking our legal advisor to get in touch with the railroad because it is a safety issue both for the fire department and for our residents. So that's where we stand on that right now. Are there any questions that our council members have about that?
Is the biggest issue because of where their Mount Nebo station is located?
And they service primarily the area over by on South Miami, over up Walmsley, Ridge Avenue. It's that area that.
So if they were blocked and they got a signal that there's a train, they would send the East Miami River Station
They
out?
can also come down a different route.
Yep, and
Or they
They
could
come down.
or they could dispatch,
Or they can dispatch.
depending on the situation.
we just want them to look at getting that device in. They do exist, but about 2 years ago, Miami Township tried to get them to install it. Those conversations went nowhere, and they asked me if I'd get involved, and I'm getting involved because it's going to protect our residents.
Do they still have 3 fully functioning stations?
They do, but they're still having some staffing issues.
At which station do you know?
I'm sorry?
At which
It
station?
depends. Most of them have been out at the new one out by Frogtown.
East Miami.
Yep.
I was just curious.
Any other questions? Just want the council to be aware also that we are going to receive a $5,000 grant. I just completed that information from the solid waste district. In the past, we've gotten about $500 to $600 from them to reduce solid waste to do recycling. This is nothing significant that I did. This is something that they actually came up with. They want to give the village more money, but we had to, apply for that, and we will be getting that $5,000. It will probably lead to a day in the Village of Cleves if you want to get rid of old computers, television sets, really working with a recycling company that will take care of your data so you don't have to worry about identity theft. Don't have a date for that yet. I'm still working on that issue, But, that's one of the things that they would want us to do. There's other things we can do as far as cleanup. As I get more of that information, I'll keep everybody, apprised of that information. I do want to update you on the Miami Township pumping station. We finally got a contract on that. I want to be real clear on this so that there's been some misinformation out in the community that I'd like to correct. There are people who think we're giving away water to Gordon Ridge residents. That is not true. Miami Township wants to install a card reader where the water is paid for up front. It requires no labor from the village. It is self-functional. They are going to be paying all of the installation and maintenance costs. They have offered a $1 a year to rent, basically, their ability to come onto the property. I can't make a recommendation to you right now because quite frankly, there's some other issues that I'm not sure they've resolved to my satisfaction. That issue is to make sure there's going to be absolutely no commercial water haulers that are going to be lined up and shutting down at 3:30 in the afternoon on East Miami and or clogging up the post office, because there were some concerns expressed about that. I have worked very hard to get that contract. However, we just got it today. We need more time to evaluate it. But I want to be very clear. It costs the village nothing. We have no maintenance costs, and the water is not free. So they're going to have to pay for Cleves water.
And it's not costing the water department.
Now, we're going to make money off it. I also want to make the residents aware that we have a new village website. The other one still is functioning. And the answer is no. There has been no turnover of the email accounts. I've asked our village law director, solicitor to contact, and I don't believe we've gotten any response back.
From my account?
No. This is from our former mayor.
Oh, no, absolutely, yeah, right, amen.
Yeah, he has not turned over anything. So we are going to have to.
I'm probably trying to clean it up. No,
I'm sorry?
probably trying to clean it up. I'm just joking.
Or he doesn't have anything.
Well, the issue is right now, just so the residents are aware, we're paying for about, I want to say about 26 email accounts, of which we don't have 26 people. And we've been paying for it since at least 2020. So that was never updated. So there's money still being spent coming out of the PNC account and village budgets. And we can't even do anything about it until that is taken over. And right now, I believe we even tried to get,
I tried Google also.
and they have not been responsive either, which they have not been responsive to me or Cindy Ozier. So the only reason I'm not cutting it off is that every one of our council members here have documents that are stored there. We have the responsibility to answer public records requests, and if we shut it down, they lose access to that. So I'm unwilling to do that up to this point. But we are going to be going with a different Google email address, and even that particular website's name will change eventually, because we have to prove, believe it or not, that we're a government agency. We'll drop that US off. And there are some, if you can imagine, the government wants certain steps put in place. So we're working on getting that done, but that is our village website, and it will be updated regularly.
So is everybody gonna get new emails then?
They'll all get new emails. And that's gonna be happening soon, because I'll be talking to iPanda. They will set it up, they will bill us, we'll be paying virtually the same amount, but much fewer number of email accounts.
If we're paying for this new site and we set it up, I don't understand why we can't shut the other one down.
Too many records stored on it right now.
Yeah, but when you Google that, that's the first hit you get is the
Yeah.
whole site. Or
You
the
do.
old representatives, still some form of account?
Just because we don't have access.
We don't have access.
We don't have control of it, and I'd like to add, Chuck did not say that the village has paid for that.
Yes, they have.
The Myers submitted an invoice in December
So we still.
for monies that they had paid out of their pocket, and they were reimbursed. The Village of Cleves has paid every penny for that. The Village of Cleves owns it, but the Myers have not,
Administrator.
have not turned over the control. So there's nothing we can do about it.
I know where they live. Let's go.
For cancel.
Well, our village, solicitor is handling it. When I say there's nothing we can do, there's nothing we can do through Google or through the web to get that control without.
I say we go up there with, posters. protest.
I will
So
tell you
Mr.
that
Merkel will be handling
Mr.
that.
Ray Hall worked also to try to get control of that, was told by Mayor Myers he would give it to him on the Friday night, and that never happened. So,
Was he drunk?
I'm sorry.
Mr. Myers drunk?
Let's be respectful.
Let's
Come
move
on,
forward.
let's not be.
Let's move
Yeah, let's
forward.
not be. All right, so we're gonna move on. We're gonna go to the committee reports, and Mr. Burns, if you would go first with Parks, and tell us about your committee, and we'll go from there.
Let me find the right window. So it wasn't an issue because nobody attended the Parks meeting in public. But there was confusion about when the Parks meeting was held. It was contemporaneous with the safety meeting. So just so everybody knows, most of the discussion was between JMA consultant Jennifer Vedder, myself, and John Knupp. We did stay past the official posted start time, yet most of the business was handled before that. So we had brief updates on the goings on per usual, baseball getting underway and such. But realistically, we spent most of the time trying to figure out how to apply to the CDBG grant, which is a matter of great urgency if we want to receive the funds. So I think I should just brief council. So their timetable was released maybe end of February-ish, but it wasn't accurate with what they presented on March 6th, which was the day before we met, which even still doesn't seem to be authoritative given responses we're getting from Hamilton County about what is due when. The current situation, conveyed by Jennifer at JMA this morning, or yesterday evening, is that we have to have public meetings to solicit public input. They must be 7 days apart. They must be 7 days after we give notice to Hamilton County to post about the meetings to newspapers or whatever public venues they want to, while we take care of our normal communication routes ourselves. And the first has to be done allowing for a 30-day comment period before the grant is due April 30th. Which scrunches our time. So we have to have 2 public meetings. At this point, they cannot be any earlier than 7 days from tomorrow if we agree to have a meeting on Thursday a week, if we do that.
So you're doing them on Thursday?
No.
Yeah.
Our schedules need to be worked out. So we need that discussion here. But I'm trying to set up the parameters for when we check our schedules. But we need to have a public meeting no earlier than a week from Thursday, because we need to both give an email to Hamilton County and start our posting. And it has to be 7 days after they happen. So if we decide tonight, we email as we leave, and then we'll be all set for that first requirement. So then we'll tick off those boxes. What will happen in these meetings? The first one is supposed to be purely solicitation from the public, description of what the CDBG grant is for. It's from the Housing and Urban Development Department from the feds, distributed through the states and county. It is meant to serve lower income regions or public spaces in Cleves are, without doing a lot of legwork that we absolutely do not have time for, that we have to serve Cleves West, or it would have to serve the park. In the past, we have used, the last time we got this was part of our playground funds in 2000, or 2020, I forget the cycle, but it's a 3-year cycle.
Do we know what amount we're looking for?
The last amount was 58,000 spread over 3 years. I believe to certain members, I have represented that it is 50-some thousand each year. That is false. It is likely 50-some thousand over 3 years total. So then it was 58. There are rumors of budget cuts. Exceptions can be made. You know, it's a grant. They will judge us by our seriousness and the value that they see in it. So theoretically, we should hear from the public what they think would be a great project in Cleves West for improving things. There's a list of approved expenses. It can be things like property acquisition and demolition, and so that's communities who are probably getting more than 50,000. In the park, we have a roster of ideas available. We can tell people that. We can tell the sorts of things that are approvable. Like, for example, maintenance is not covered, but a new installation is. So we give them particulars, hear what they have to say. Then we have a chance to make our own priorities, and then in the second meeting, we report back about how we respond to that. Now, if we actually want to get together and chat about that, or in a separate forum, I think that's probably, so the rest of the schedule is this. After you have to have a second meeting to tell people what we're going to be up to.
We're running out of time.
What we're applying to. Don't I know it? And, yeah, I don't know how much time I've been talking.
And you have to have a quorum, correct?
You've been told we need a quorum.
So that's at least 4 council
At least
people
4,
to attend.
Who knows when Judy's getting back on board, so.
She said she would be out for 4 days. She's available after that.
Okay. We'll see. I hope so. Yeah, I mean, JMA will fill out the grant for us, so they need time to actually work on it. So there you go. Like the most likely thing to do is to have the 2 public meetings within just bang bang. The
7 days of each other.
7 days of each other, and the question is, how much deliberation do we want to do together on those? Do we want to make that discussion part of the first meeting after everybody's had their say?
That would make sense.
I think that makes sense. So there you go. The dates that I proposed have been shot down, so I need y'all to tell me what works and doesn't interfere with mine.
What is the latest that we can hold the second one? Do we have to have it before our council meeting on the 10th? We have to have it before that? I mean, if this expires, we have to have it. Do we need to approve any legislation for JMA to apply?
No.
Okay, so we don't need that.
Is there a deadline for the first meetings? Does that have to be done before the end of the month?
According to the letter of the law on the process, there's supposed to be a 30-day comment period, and the clock ticks on after the first meeting. So the first meeting needs to be held by March 29th.
So right now we need to decide on a date between the 21st and the 29th that we can have 4 of us here for the meeting.
Yes.
And it could be a Saturday morning, correct? It could be.
Would be. So in general, what works?
Could it be before our finance meeting on the 27th? You know you're gonna have 3 council people there on the 27th. It doesn't matter.
I think after is probably more likely with work schedules. In the past, you've only been able to come after 6:30.
Finance is at 7. I can get here by 6:30. I don't know how much time you need to allow for that meeting. Yeah.
I don't know either, so.
I'm just proposing that. I'm
So
available.
the history of it is Nobody has ever attended one of these falls from the public. I don't think that's gonna happen this time.
Worst case scenario, if it runs over, it's not like it's gonna be a big problem for finance if we start over, is it?
Not for me.
Todd just said the 27th would work for him.
What about you, dear?
I'm okay with 27.
Which, March 27th.
We could do it at 6:30.
Wednesday. At 6:30. That would be fine with me.
And then we could do the finance as soon as that's done. Because this will have to get posted, correct? Public notice.
They gotta put it in the paper.
Right, but we have to post it as well.
Yeah,
We have
we
to
do.
do our postings. Hamilton County will do their postings. They need 7 days for theirs.
And we're giving them that.
For the record, thank you for, well, I don't know about for the record, but explicitly, thank you for treating this with the urgency that I think we want to do. So,
I don't wanna, $50,000.
So then your next chance is the 3rd. And then after that, I can't summon Gmail on this computer, and I don't know the particulars of that. I was just counting on having it 7 days after. It was,
The 3rd was a problem for you that time, correct? When do you have your safety meeting?
First Thursday of the month.
Which would be the 4th at 6:30.
Is that possible for you? And who else is on the committee with you on safety? I can make the
well,
4th.
what we could do is make this the subject of parks, because the outcome is very likely,
Okay,
and just cancel parks nominally.
and when is the park? meeting?
Marks is at 5:30, well,
On the 4th?
does that help?
I cannot be here at 5:30.
And what I didn't say is, I can't carry on after the parks time. Going south. Nope, I'll go. Yeah, it's the 4th. Just Google it. Yes.
When did your safety meeting start?
6:30.
6:30? And the park starts at 5:30?
6:30 is the earliest you can be here.
We can pick another day.
I'm going on parks now.
It's okay. I will flex my thing, but,
Can we do it on the 10th at 6:30 before the council meeting?
I don't know the answer. And I can.
Are you
my
gonna
other
be here
notes
on the
because
10th?
maybe it's in my car.
Are you gonna be here on the 10th, the next council meeting?
I don't know if it's legal for I don't know if it's permissible based on the parameters of it.
Okay.
I would be willing to do it then. So let's say this, I will check are people equally agreeable to the 4th is their first preference, the 4th at 6:30? Yes, and there's 4 people who could attend that.
I will be here on the 4th at 6:30. That's when safety committee.
I can be
meets.
there,
We can move that, reschedule that, whatever,
or just back it up.
we'll back it up.
It shouldn't take long, right?
Believe it should take long. Correct.
Well, why don't we just, the safety committee, we can start at 7:30. and 6:30. How long do you think the anticipate?
Since that's only communicating outward, I suspect that's 30 minutes.
We could start parks at
I mean,
7.
it's amazing how quick you can spend $50,000.
Or
Hey, look,
safety
we're building a
is-
sidewalk.
So April the 4th, Thursday, April the 4th, the parks special meeting for the grant at 6:30, then safety committee at 7, is that what we're saying?
These are public meetings, that's a public meeting. So you
They'll be
people there?
posted.
You need people there?
They can be posted at the same time, by the way. So we're looking at 3/27 at 6:30 and 4/4 at 6:30.
Okay. So we should be on our way.
You just need
I
to
can-
email those to Judith so she can be at the one she can make it to. Okay, we know we have a quorum, that's,
So I will be prepared for the first meeting with several options that Parks is kicking around. I will ask for better dollar amounts than I can summon from nothing, from John. And of course, anything that comes from the public would get its consideration. I don't know if there's anything else much to report on Parks. We're talking about baseball season. I guess I gotta find Cindy. Is there somebody that, I will report, TRCA graciously cut a check to Cleves, a gesture of goodwill for improving the condition of baseball fields. There's general agreement that we should get some dirt to patch up the low spots at the moment. John is on it, is my understanding. So far, they've got it so looking relatively nice, but it's been wet.
we can probably give that to the clerk of council and she can get that to Cindy. Does that seem appropriate?
Ta-da!
Easy come, easy go.
Yeah.
We still need to do a resolution to pass that, so we have that prepared.
A resolution to accept the
Yeah,
check.
you really are supposed to have that approved. It's not supposed to be just a policy. It's supposed to actually take a resolution where you're accepting it. And it's in your packet. And it's and the public has it. So all you gotta do is
So
vote.
any donation to the park has to be accepted that?
Anytime you're doing any type of donation, it's financial, you should have a resolution.
Yeah, technically,
Okay.
it's documented.
A motion or resolution? We just make a motion accepting it?
The resolution acts as more or less.
All we gotta do is make a motion for the document. Resolution number 12.
Or it has a title that has something to do with accepting the check.
Yes.
It's a one-time donation to the Cleveland Rivers Community Athletic Association.
I will go ahead and make that motion to adopt the resolution.
Hi, everybody.
You all right?
Bye. Take care of yourself.
It's moved and second. Would you call the roll, please?
Yes, Mr. Burns,
Yes.
Mr. Walters,
Yes.
Ms. Bolton,
Yes.
Ms. Meister,
Yes.
Mr. Williams.
Resolution passed 5-0. Are you gonna talk about anything else, Kevin, or you wanna just move on? You wanna tell them about the grant you did for the,
Well, I don't even know if I reported that. I submitted a grant for Christmas walk. They didn't even acknowledge receipt. I guess I gotta follow up. But maybe we'll get a bouncy house this year. when they come.
so the public knows he had 2 days to get this done, and he worked his tail off to get it done. So, we're hoping that we'll get that up. Do you remember how much the amount was for that?
I think we asked for $8,000.
So, and that would go towards the Christmas.
No, we
How much was it?
have no
$8,000.
8? Nice.
So,
You would be shocked how expensive Elvis impersonators are.
No, I wouldn't. We
And that's-
hired one
that's
for my
picking the
sister.
cheap one.
There's one who lives up in Delhi, Mike, what's his
Yeah,
name?
that's, yeah,
Yeah, Mike.
well known.
He's getting a little bit older now, though, but so is Elvis.
Linda, do you want to go on to the finance committee?
Yeah, and something was mentioned earlier that prompted me, as we talk about the posting of meetings, I had a discussion with Chuck the other day. At a bare minimum, according to the Ohio Sunshine Law, we should post our regular scheduled meetings at least once at the beginning of every year, at a minimum. Chuck has always supported promoting those at a higher level. I suggested that we get something at a minimum posted that covers us for every regularly scheduled committee meeting. But we could go a notch above that. And at the beginning of every month, our clerk of council could post what scheduled meetings we have for that month. Council meeting, finance, safety, blah. So we've gone up one extra notch, but we're covered. We're covered if something comes up and the clerk can't get there a day or two before each meeting every month. She would have to post 4 different postings at least, not counting the council. If you do it at the beginning of every month, that's one more level of announcement and reminder to the public of when your meetings are. Chuck would like to go farther than that and have them post 2 to 3 days before every single committee meeting, post a reminder. That's great, but I want us to at least do the bare minimum and go up one notch. I want us to post every month which meetings are being held that month. That way, if by some chance one is missed, and we almost missed the finance meeting last month, Chuck ran around like a chicken with his head cut off to get that posted in time. I don't want to have to cancel a committee meeting because something happened, something slipped through the cracks. I would like to at least post monthly, and then they can do, the clerk of council and the mayor, they can do whatever they want of it over and above that. But I would like to at least cover the fact that all of our meetings will be posted once a month at the beginning of the month. What they do after that's fine. I don't know, that would be a request of somebody on council. I don't know if anybody has any objections to that.
I agree with you on that. I do.
I think we have many venues to be able to announce. It's not like we're hiding.
No, I agree.
So I think this gives us some latitude and some flexibility should things change. But I think with the onset of the new, I think the only thing that I would be wary of, and I think it does concern me, is that we still don't have access to the other website. And I think that would be the only issue that I've found thus far, because you are looking at 2 different entities. You've got current council and mayor, and you have past. And irrespective of the fact that we got documents stored there, I get that. But, you know, what's gonna keep somebody from looking at this site and say, this just doesn't match up? I'm confused. So I think we keep it simple.
Yeah, and not everybody has the internet, not everybody goes on the website. So you by law, you've got 6 public posting locations, I believe, 5 or 6.
5.
And so at least once a month, it would be posted in the 6 public places. It'll be on the new website. Maybe we can talk about at finance, getting some kind of postcard or letter sent out to residents, letting them know that that old website is not up to date.
Well, how about we post it on the website that this is an inaccurate
We
site?
we don't have the authority to post anything on that.
No, I'm saying on our site, if you happen to visit our old site,
Oh.
this is not legitimate. It's illegitimate.
Derek, I didn't mention this before, but one of the things we always look for is the cost factor of mailing. It is my intent to be doing a letter that is going to address the website. Now, it's not going to get to everybody, okay? But I'm going to do it the way I delivered my campaign. So I'm planning on starting here very soon. The exact routes that I went, and then with the other ones that are like registered voters, I think we can mail those and keep our costs low. So I am planning on trying to do that very, very quickly. By the 28th, I want to have it done.
I'll be candid with you. When you sent out the link and I hit that link and then I inadvertently deleted it, I went in there and put in Cleves, the old one, my error, and I'm still pulling up, all that erroneous information. So it's quite confusing, quite disappointing, irrespective of where we are.
And that's a newsletter. Last year we started, or 2 years ago, a spring and fall newsletter, the mailing, that went out to the residents. We need to continue that.
Yeah, I've already talked to the same company, so I'm working on that.
I agree.
Can I make a comment?
Yes.
On the old site, from what I'm seeing, there's not been anything posted since the fall of 2023. And I would assume that anybody that would come to that site first, which is the same thing that happened to me, they would realize that there's a glitch or something and would reach out, fingers crossed,
Where would you reach
That-
out to?
call the village, I don't know, make a
Does
phone
anybody
call,
answer
ask
that?
around, ask your neighbor.
We don't have, I've been working with Cincinnati Bell to help us get into that. And they sent me a link and 4 or 5 different phone systems, of which I don't know which one we have. So the answer to that question, if you call here, you're probably not going to get me. You may get the police, and if they tell us, that would be great. But the only thing I can tell you is I only got so many hours in a day. And what I've tried to do is put my number out there, and I am getting calls at home. Okay, so I will work on that. That's just not been my thought right now.
I don't disagree, I totally understand.
Yeah, but I do think our residents need to be able to pick up the phone and reach our administration building. So I think, you know, even if someone helps you do it, Chuck, I think that should be, we need to have a phone where someone could reach out and reach Penny. Was one of your options for a phone system Avaya, A-V-A-Y-A? Because that's ringing a bell to me.
I don't know. I'll have to look at the email they sent me.
Okay.
But there's like 6 of them in there, and they didn't tell me which one we have.
There used to be a file with all the information on the phone system somewhere, because I kept all of that. And I think Avaya sounds familiar.
I just got my water bill, and that's a good way to communicate. You send it
Yes,
to every
yes,
house in the
yes.
community, stick a little piece of paper in there, any information need to get out.
There's an area too,
That's
good.
good idea. That's great.
We can put it out right on the.
They can start putting our website on it, our new website. New website, and put the new website on
Garbage, there's a garbage bill too that comes.
Couldn't we get like the signs they put in the yards, the, vinyl letter signs, and do maybe like 5 or 6 of them and put them in strategic places throughout the village, like over at the ballpark and then take.
That's a great idea.
That's a great idea. I'll
You know,
look-
New
just, hello,
website.
here we
Yeah.
are. This is our new site.
Well, I know somebody's got
A
the.
banner.
Yeah. There we go. Your core yard, but what's I will work on that.
Mine be lit up
if you
at night.
approve of that.
That would be great.
I'll work exactly how we want to do it, the size, when I'll get the money for it, just let me know, and we'll go from there.
That would be great.
Alright.
Okay, so you got more to do.
I can take care of it.
All right, yeah, that's,
You gotta make your recommendation.
yes, I would like to recommend that, make a motion, I guess, if that's what you want officially made, that our clerk of council post at the beginning of every month, post a regularly scheduled meeting.
We can just do that.
Okay, well, I didn't know what you were expecting, okay.
Now, I'm looking at this. We need to move on.
Oh, I haven't even given my report, okay. Okay, so, the finance committee meeting, the most important business right now is the permanent appropriations, which we have to adopt before the end of this month. I personally met with Cindy and went over line by line. Basically, she's taking a lot of the figures that were put together for the budget when it was presented to you by Mr. Brick. We made a couple, when Chuck said transferring money, we made a couple changes to put money in places where we thought we might need it. What's important about the appropriations, I understand it, but I want to make sure you guys feel comfortable. You can always reappropriate. So if you determine that somewhere during the year you need additional money put into the maintenance capital expense because of a purchase of a zero-turn mower. If you didn't put it in there originally today, you could move it from another account into that account very easily. So I just want you guys to know that this is a flexible document, but it is designed to establish permanent appropriations in order for the village to operate going forward. I feel very comfortable with what I saw when I met with Cindy, and then she presented reports and to the finance committee as a whole. So the finance committee is recommending at this time that those appropriations be adopted. We did, and we are gonna discuss at future meetings, the possibility of supplementing the parks with money out of the general fund. We also talked about potential street projects down the road, that we might do our first street project and fund it with investment money. All those things were discussed at finance. We're not coming to council with any of those recommendations at this time. But I would like you to review those appropriations, and if you feel comfortable enough to move forward to adopting the permanent appropriations.
You do need to do this month, correct?
If we don't do it today, we have to have a special council meeting to do it before the end of this month.
Question about Exhibit A.
Yeah.
Is this the correct thing that you're trying to append to?
Cindy, I think, sent us the document online, a PDF.
Yeah, we sent it out today. It is, it's 34 pages. It's 34 pages, I believe.
Okay, well then I have a question on what this is, because this looks like transactions. These are past, post-dated. It doesn't say anything about this much for this year.
That's what she
It looks
said.
like a February report.
It's a payment register detail from February. That's not what we're talking about.
Well, it's labeled
She
Exhibit A.
did not send us that actual
Appropriation.
I thought it came in a 34-page. She said she had the amounts on there, the appropriation amounts. Here was the financial worksheet budget, showing what the budget was tentatively for in 2024. She said she went by those figures for the most part. I saw something
What we got with
online.
the ordinance today, the paper copy is fine. Correct, Kevin's correct. This is the wrong attachment.
The paper, you guys have a paper attachment? I only looked at what came in the,
This
on the
is,
PDF.
this is what I asked for you to put in it. This is an email I got. That's the document I got. I will tell you, when she sends things, they come they have like a,
That's the wrong document.
yeah, I did that.
But I think the one that was PDF to us, I saw appropriations on the report. No, that was the pay ordinance, Gary. Oh,
And that was sent when, because I can tell
I saw the
you,
one we had at the finance committee, but I'm not seeing any emails where she sent it.
I don't think she did. Not me.
well, I'm opening up something right now.
You had me send something today, Joe?
That's wrong though. That's what they got.
Okay.
Maybe that's
Jeez. Yeah. I thought I saw something online that said appropriations, but the one report I don't have with me is the report. I went up, it was legal size paper, and we went through it because I had questions about what some of the accounts were. I don't know that we can move forward. We can look at it again at the finance committee meeting, and I don't know what the penalty is if we are late. We never had this issue
So do
before.
we need to go ahead and schedule another special meeting to, We need to do it this
We gotta
month.
go through everybody.
Can we do it on the 27th? With that public hearing? Well, when is the finance committee meeting?
She was supposed to send us another document.
I think it is post special CED. I didn't record that detail.
Well, the next finance committee meeting is Wednesday, the 27th. We're gonna have a public hearing at 6:30. Everybody else said they could be there at the 27th, right? We could list a special session of council to adopt permanent appropriations. You can limit it to one topic if you wish to do so.
Sounds good, let's do that.
Let's do that.
What time?
I apologize.
What time are we doing all this on the 20th?
I think something's at 6:30, something's at 7, or 6:30. Finance is at 7. We could maybe post it for 7 o'clock and the finance meeting start at 7:15. Yep. I'm sorry, I apologize. I thought all of this would be, I do have the reports at home, and I just. Yeah, I think so, yeah.
Well, that's counting on a super quick special meeting for the other purpose. So that's saying people aren't chatty and we resolve our discussion about what our priorities are in quick order.
A special meeting, you're only allowed to discuss the topic that is posted.
Absolutely. I understand, but we have a CDBG special meeting
At
at
6:30.
where we'll publicly discuss options for CDBG. Public input and discussion of priorities.
And that's the first meeting, so that one will take about
We'll
30
close
minutes.
that meeting and then we'll just start the second meeting.
Well, I'm saying if you announce that for 7 o'clock, you probably won't do that, if anybody shows up.
Oh, I thought you said it'd be 30 minutes.
No, the second one can easily be 30 minutes. The first one, I suspect, would require some. And that confusion is probably why I
We
didn't
really
report.
think a bunch of people are going to show up.
I don't know anything.
Are we able to see this beforehand and we come prepared? And that way we are restricting our time to 15 minutes and we limit to that. Start promptly and end promptly.
Exactly. Okay. You said this appropriations first?
Yes,
It's good.
get it out of the way. Limit to that.
Appropriations, then a special grant meeting, then following that will be finance. Got it.
We don't really need to have finance that much, do we?
Yes,
We can, we got a lot of things to try to work out.
So will this be sent, will this be sent to us via email then, that we can take a look at it beforehand?
If it gets sent to me, yes, or, yeah.
Well, who has it? Is it?
It's
Cindy
our
has it.
fiscal officer.
Okay, so she can send it to us.
When did she return from her?
I don't know. She sent me pictures from the Grand Canyon and stuff like that, and I don't know.
Well, we got 2 weeks.
That is true.
So, yes, and she'll be back.
I would assume she'll be back, because they're on spring break right now, so I would assume.
Probably access it
Okay.
and send it tomorrow.
I will send her an email and request that she send me, and I will make sure everybody gets it.
Got one more.
And what is that?
The big one, this one.
Oh, okay. So at the finance meeting, another topic we discussed was doing something to bring our current maintenance pay into alignment with what is a more fair and market value wage. And currently, we have a park employee, maintenance employee / park employee who's been with us for over 15 years, maybe longer. who is currently making $16.50 per hour. We have a fairly new maintenance worker who isn't, I don't think he's been here a full year yet, who's currently making $16 an hour. So we had quite a discussion in finance about bringing these pays more in line, especially if you have to replace somebody. What are the odds of finding an adequate worker at that dollar amount? We also have to take into consideration that we are a village. We got to get a handle on our revenue, what we really have to, because the maintenance department functions on a separate fund where permissive and motor vehicle tax money and whatever goes into. But we have to supplement it out of the general fund. We can't run our maintenance department on just those monies. The committee did discuss thoroughly, and at the end, we decided to come to council with increase, and this is a salary adjustment, not a raise. Employees will still be considered for a raise. This is just to bring the salary adjustment made for the current workers. We're recommending that Norman Rutherford go from $16.50 an hour to $18.50 an hour. This is a reflection of a more current wage, as well as the number of years of service that he has. It didn't seem right that he only made 50 cents an hour more than a guy that just started. At this time, because the Austin Benevengo has been here less than a year, hasn't even had a review yet, we felt like if we take his adjustment from 16 to 17, $17 an hour, which still probably isn't enough, but it's a start, that would be the starting wage for any full-time employee that we get from the maintenance department as of right now. That can be adjusted after further discussion. And then we looked at our maintenance supervisor. And if we're gonna bring up these employees, then how does that affect his pay and where does that put him at? And we also discussed the fact that he's probably not paid what he's worth either. And we are recommending that his salary be increased by approximately 8%, which would be around $3,800 up to $50,000 a year. So,
Do you have any comments in council about that?
The supervisor's increase would be 8%. The Austin's would be 6%, and Norman Rutherford's would be 12%. Well, we looked at what we thought we could afford as well. The current cost of living, those two employees are still underpaid, even after our adjustments made. So we don't know yet for sure what we can afford.
How are you getting raised? You don't know sure if you can raise.
We feel that we can give them this raise, but we can sit here for months and debate how high to go, or we can wait 8 months and figure out, okay, where are we at? Cindy has reported to finance that she's comfortable with where we're at right now, that we don't need to even ask or consider a levy at this point. But the maintenance department is the only service department that we currently provide our residents. We provide that. Not Miami Township, not Hamilton County Sheriff's, we do. And so I think we need to figure out if we can afford to be in business or if we can't. And $16.50 an hour is not enough for someone who's been here 15. Well, he was here long before I left, and I've been gone 8.5 years. And then you've got a brand new employee. This is a starting point, Gary.
When we were discussing this in finance, Cindy was there, and she did indicate that this is within our budget.
And to rephrase, hopefully not belaboring it, this is more of the stopgap approach, where we've had a rule of thumb. That's you're asking about the evidence essentially. Say, what's the analysis that's saying we can do this? That is, we're deferring to Cindy on that. The back of the envelope, yes, we can afford a few thousands of dollars here and there, especially with the new revenues coming from the house increases. So that part overwhelms these few $1,000. And the discussion is that we do need a more thorough and grounded approach to saying, what are our ground levels? What is our progression through the years? And having a better rubric, which we don't currently have at all. And at
We
that
discussed
time,
pay scale.
at that time, we'll be folding, because we talked about inflation and cost of living, what's it take to be a human in this environment, and so forth. So we have that consideration. Like last year's CPI was what, 3.5%, which is BS because rent went up 20%. So we can fold in those more accurate or holistic numbers ongoing. What is the discussion?
Finish our ducks in a row.
You at least got the treasurer saying so.
Yeah.
Any comments, I'd just like to hear from the public, because obviously you just heard that discussion. You guys know what the cost of living is.
But my personal opinion, being that I've dealt in construction, granted I was a union guy. You got a maintenance guy that's been around here. John's been around how long?
8 or 9 years.
And $50,000. I'm sorry. I that's not that much. And he does one heck of a job. I mean, does a great job.
All of them do.
8%, I don't think is, I wouldn't consider it fair for what he's done around this village with little directions in previous years and being dumped on like he's been dumped on in previous years. I just don't think 8% is enough for the maintenance supervisor. I
That
mean,
is
put it this
definitely
way,
something we can discuss and look at when we get a better handle on what we
Right.
can afford.
but on the other hand, you're dealing with the same thing that you're dealing with the administrator. If he was to leave, are you gonna get somebody in charge of maintenance for $50,000 a year?
Maybe not.
Oh, no.
That's my point.
And that's been a case in this village as long as far back as when I was here.
Right.
Our people have never been paid we had part-time police officers putting bulletproof vests on for $9 an hour.
And it's not
And
just
then
police.
$11 an hour. And it was, they were here to get the experience and then they moved on. And we had to understand that that's what we were, a training ground.
And it's not just Cleves, it's every small
No,
village,
no.
I understand. But to me, 8%,
This is the first step to try to
Right.
make something that makes sense for our employees.
I think that just really to keep people for now, these numbers look quite acceptable. I mean, I obviously don't have the knowledge of the financial situation as it stands right now, but I am very confident that you've done the research to find out whether we could pull this off, at least for the near and perhaps more distant future, until more increases are allowed or the economy settles down or whatever the hell it's gonna do. Anyway, my personal opinion is these numbers, while they are still low, at least perhaps people will stay and continue to do the decent job that they are doing now, as opposed to some of the actions of the past.
Do you know what the township employees are making?
Well, we hesitate to
compare.
compare ourselves to the township. We do not have their revenue source. So we can look at other villages. I know the village in North Bend is paying someone like Norm $19 an hour. We settled on $18.50. We look, you gotta look at not only villages our size, but what is their revenue source? Do they have an INEOS? Do they have an income tax? Do they have this? Do they have that? We don't. So I think that this is a first step, Mr. Meister. I think it's a first step, and we
Well,
move
that
from
certainly
there.
isn't gonna run them off, that's gonna,
No, I don't think they're gonna leave
that's
because
gonna
of
help,
this.
but, I mean, I agree with him that, that's really not
No,
in today's market, you know.
no, I
They
can't
want a
disagree with
comfortable
you.
life to live.
Any more discussion? Do I have a motion to approve? I think this would be number,
Is this an ordinance or a
this is
resolution?
resolution number 14. No, it's resolution 13.
With no further discussion, I would motion to approve resolution 13, 2024. Do we need to introduce and then read by title only?
That's not an ordinance, it's a non-reading it as an
So
ordinance.
I'll make a motion that we adopt resolution 13, 2024.
Who seconded? Burn second. Do call the roll, please.
Yes. Mr. Burns.
Yes.
Mr. Walters.
Yes.
Ms. Bolton.
Real quick question, when does this become effective?
Right, it
Next
says
pay
in here,
period?
the very next page.
Okay, great, yes.
Ms. Meister.
Yes.
Mr. Williams.
Yes. Motion passes 5-0. And is there anything else you have?
No, I mean, it's gonna stay, at some point, we're gonna be looking at employee raises, but not now. I think those were what, over the summer, do you know, Jerry? What was the normal, employee?
There was not a
They have not been doing employee evaluations, there was no one, they're starting from.
Okay, it'll stay on the agenda in the finance committee, we'll be looking at that as we go along.
Yes, thank you.
Todd, I think you got, you would say something.
Just some things real quick that we discussed at our last meeting. The fire department, we discussed the landing pad for the helicopter over in the park district, about getting some improvements made with that. The fire captain is going to get with one of the medics that fly on the helicopter to actually go out to the landing zone at the park, see what improvements they recommend, if any, whether it be paint or anything like that. Also, with the fire department, we are working with them to get our full-time employees, village employees, certified on CPR AEDs. We bought the AEDs almost a year ago. And they're in nice little boxes, but nobody's ever even opened one or used one in the heightened sense of an event going on. You don't function very well. If you have some kind of knowledge of what happens when you open that door and you turn it on, what's going to happen next, how to use it. Our fire department's good, but if the train's blocking, you can't get there, that might be that little bit of time that you need. We also, Ms. Meister brought up a good suggestion about implementing a monthly inspection on all the village AEDs. We have yet to determine who would be in charge of that. I prefer one person that would be the sole person doing that, so they're familiar with each location and what needs, if batteries need to be replaced or something like that. The fire department also said, since we just recently had our time change, that when you change your clocks, you change your smoke alarm batteries. And then talking about the safety, we were discussing the solar speed lights, speed stop sign, or not stop signs, or speed limit sign on East State Street. I've got from Sergeant Carney 4 or 5 different companies that make them. I've had it narrowed down to 2 different kinds. I would talk with John about the installation of them. So,
Just clarify, they're not speed limit signs, they're signs that actually tell you what your speed limit is. They're.
They tell you that you're speeding.
Yeah, like the big one that's down on North Miami now, these are smaller signs that are mounted on a pole.
Yeah, and no item, my apologies for that. And working on the ordinance for the J break on US 50, the noise complaints from the tractor trailers, which actually we have on our agenda tonight for having the ordinance. And once that's approved by council, and that then we can move forward with the state installing the J break zones like they have that.
And this is an ordinance, correct?
Yeah.
That might be ordinance one for you, and
Yes, it is.
so would there be a sign posted at the entrance?
On US 50 or east and west.
Yeah.
So.
He has that ordinance.
Yeah, I just saw it, so I don't know if you want to jump right into that.
Yeah, if you want to recommend that or explain that, there's a question out here though.
Yeah.
Have you considered putting that on the westbound of 128, which is a state highway, coming down all the way through that hill with
Are
the
you talking about
J-break?
264?
Yes, yes, I'm sorry, no 120, because that is annoying for people who live there. I know that for a fact, my brother, for one. They all the way from that sharp
Yeah,
bend,
we can look at.
I mean, they actually speed up and then put that J brake on all
Yeah, I
down
hear
through.
from my house.
Yeah, I mean, if it's an ordinance, just if you can add that to it.
The ordinance is already on the books.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's gonna repeal it to, because it covers the entire village. But with, the ordinance passing and repealing the one that's there, it's just more detailed and it lists the fact that you can, the ODOT and that to put signs up. So there's warning, ingress and egress and that kind of stuff.
Okay.
Well,
Well, I
are
mean,
you saying there's gonna be signs installed on
You, after this passes, the village has to get in contact with the state, reference placing signs by this. There's the Department of Transportation.
Yeah, I understand that, but we were asking for it to be on US 50.
And that's US 50, it's technically already on US 50, but enacting it this way will get you the signs to let people know, and it can be enforced, and obviously you got to sign also.
According to Sergeant Carney, if there's no sign, you can't enforce it.
That's why this is written to repeal the one that's there, that it's really brief
Okay.
and detail it out this way.
So are we going to be putting signs on State Route 264 also then?
You
So do we
can
need-
by the,
Do we need
using
to add
statute.
to this first paragraph, because we have integrating on US Route 50 within the boundaries? Do we need to add?
And state route
Not-
264.
Not necessarily because it covers the entire village.
Right.
So you
This
could,
one
you can
does?
petition, the ordinance that's current covers the whole village, but it doesn't address signs, it doesn't
So
address.
if we're peeling the current, repealing it and amending and enacting this,
Correct, because he
And the other
specifically
one
wanted
still-
signs, but you can petition the ODOT for signs on those main areas, main highways.
so we don't need to change any
No.
of the wording to include 264.
No.
That's just one.
Because it covers the entire village.
Yeah.
My understanding is that ODOT will post those signs.
Yeah, I think they're at the cost of the municipality village, but you let ODOT know when you do have them and they will place them.
Now, the question about the LEDs, how many of those do we have in the village?
4 of them,
4 of them?
yes.
What do you have 4 of?
She has how many AEDs we have, we currently have. The defibrillator.
Automatic, with a heart
okay,
attack, where they
okay,
put the
okay.
little pads on you and push the button and come back. to life.
Did they come out, does ODOT come out and do the survey on that, or how is that placement acquired?
We have to
The
pass the
signs.
ordinance.
The
Once
signs.
we pass the
Signs.
ordinance, we notify them and then they will come out and. put the
And they
sign-
do the
install them.
whole thing? Okay.
We probably need to specify too, they're not 264.
Or maybe give them a diagram saying, hey, this road here and this road here, so it's like really detailed, so there's no
That's
question
through the
that
state,
these
so
are
they
the
will be
streets.
posting them off on the state
Well,
routes.
Obviously, you don't need to put it on the eastbound, you
No,
know,
going
on
up
two
the-
sixty-four, just the west, coming down the hill. Yes.
I'll just break the whole up, those on wrong.
If there's no, I was gonna say if there's no further discussion.
Entirely different. So as you were coming down 264, did you notice there was a traffic study going on? And then out here on 50 as well. I think I asked the mayor, any idea what that's all about? Didn't see a little,
Oh, I saw the truck yesterday riding around. There was a bigger truck and then a lower truck, and they had the street sign around it.
no, I mean, I just know that there's a traffic study being done out on 50. And then as you go up 264, coming down 264, there's the counters, the traffic counters,
Oh,
I
okay.
believe. And I didn't know if it was part and parcel to the fact that the street up there may or may not be deteriorating or whatever. Or if there was something else to
I didn't have a chance to talk to John. John will probably know.
I didn't know if you knew that.
I'll check on that.
And speaking of that, do we need to have a temporary street commissioner assigned as well? Since we don't have a village administrator?
I don't think you have the same requirement there that you do with the water department.
I don't know, can you check on that, Mr. Merkel?
Yeah.
John,
Because we eliminated a street commissioner when you hired the village administrator, so right now we don't have one. He just talked about traffic studies. I mean, you could appoint John, the temporary street commissioner, if we need one.
the difference here is though, I think the difference is that we are going to be, John does the streets currently, basically. He is the guy who does, I talked to him about this. There's really not gonna be a whole lot of change, even though that was part of Mr. Rahall's job. John did that.
I think it's listed in the ORC.
It is.
It is.
So I just don't want us to drop the ball if we need to have a temporary street commissioner, just like we did the waterworks.
I don't know that you're gonna, the funding of the water department, I think is the big issue there, as far as why that's set up the way it is. And they add that extra information because that is what the village administrator should be doing, supervising the streets, the waterways, and different things by the Ohio Revised Code. So I just don't see that as an immediate issue because basically I'm supervising John right now. He already knows that if the water board comes back, that we would have to name a street commissioner at that point, and he is willing to do that because he's doing it right now.
Okay, just will you check and be sure that we're fine?
Yeah.
Okay, do we have a motion to adopt ordinance number 2024?
Motion to introduce. Right.
And I think Todd
I'll make a
made that.
Todd made the motion?
Yeah.
Let's see, this would be ordinance 01-2024, repealing, amending, and reenacting ordinance 72.125.
I will second. Are you discussing the current version on the
No, he's taking a look at what's written there. He thinks there's an error.
Are you looking down here?
Just in the ordinance code. Yeah, it's 72.125 versus 71-3.
So we have that.
motion to introduce that with the correction of that wording.
So that was still part of it. So it's.
He's gonna change it.
Based on the second number. Starting with the people, I think those you guys already have it. So it should be 5. Oh, yeah, I added that as an additional traffic violation, and then I went into code and found. So that's what.
So the 125 is correct.
125 should be correct.
Yeah.
125 is correct.
Motion to introduce.
I would like to make a motion. We have to suspend the
To introduce, you gotta introduce it first.
ordinance 01-2024, repealing, amending, and reenacting ordinance 72.125.
I'll second that motion.
You want to call the roll call?
Yes. Mr. Burns?
Yes.
Mr. Walters?
Yes.
Ms. Bolton?
Yes.
Ms. Meister?
Yes.
Mr. Williams?
Yes. I'd like to make a motion to suspend the rules and read by title only.
I'll second.
Would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Burns?
Yes.
Mr. Walters?
Yes.
Ms. Bolton?
Yes.
Ms. Meister?
Yes.
Mr. Williams?
Yes. Ordinance 01-20, I would like to make the motion to adopt ordinance 01-2024, repealing, amending, and reenacting ordinance 72.125.
I will second.
Would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Burns?
Yes.
Mr. Walters?
Yes.
Ms. Bolton?
Yes.
Ms. Meister?
Yes.
And Mr. Williams?
Yes. And that ordinance passes 5-0. And
Can I ask 2 questions of the safety committee before we move on? First, was there always a light at US 50 and State Road? There's a big prominent one hanging over Dental Depot right now, and I did not,
What do you mean a light?
a street light.
A street light?
Hanging like, out the fall, just gigantic street light hanging over the highway that I never noticed before that X years.
To be honest, I've driven past it a million times and never really paid that much attention.
Although it'll be dark tonight, so.
I think there was always one over there because of the railroad tracks. Are you talking about on that, over on that side of the little
We don't know.
entrance?
We'll ask Johnson. Then the second thing, I would have you consider it for your committee. Like, at one point, there was flashing lights that said, hey, you're coming down this curvy bit towards the intersection of Miami Avenue and State Road. And I've almost died on it twice this week. Because I don't normally drive in rush hour when the car's back up.
Yeah.
I'm a fan of that re-existing. I don't know what you guys thought about that.
What part of the state was it on?
Yeah, I remember.
As you wind down the hill past Ponches,
Okay, so right before that last curve, there was
yeah,
one there.
before you hit the Legion train, and if it's backed up from Miami, you don't get any more.
You come around that curve and you're right there on it.
Yeah,
Is the sign still there, but it's not blinking, or?
I don't think even the sign is there.
Wow,
Was there one?
there
There
was.
was a flashing light.
Yeah.
I believe we ditched it when it broke.
It was a light that had the stoplight, like the sign had a stoplight with the flashing.
It was warning you there was an intersection,
Yeah.
traffic signal.
So you can consider that. That's the end of my point.
John, do you have anything else?
No.
We'll move on to Mr. Walters. Give us a brief overview of the zoning meeting that we had this month.
It will be very brief, as much as that, because we are, developing this, we're still filling our way around. And it was only, as a result of that meeting, it did show that we did need a zoning appeals. My feeling is that this planning and zoning hears issues and then makes recommendations to planning and zoning appeals and so forth. So they're two separate entities, but again, it was just the fact that because we are so new, we're still feeling our way around. So I really don't have much more to update, other than the fact that there were concerns and there were some issues, and that's indicative of then the fact that we do need the appeals board. That's pretty much.
The only thing I would add to that is that Hamilton County model zoning, they're gonna be doing a facilitating of a review. So you take a look at the International Maintenance Code, because there's some things conflicting with the 1968 code, and they're gonna sort of walk us through that process, and that's gonna take about a year to finalize.
To that point too, they will be here at the Steve Johnson, I believe is his name.
Well, Steve Johns is sending somebody from, I don't know the gentleman's name, but they'll be at the next building to talk about that process.
And I do think the committee will also be looking at the advantages of a planning and zoning commission versus a planning and zoning committee at council. That's gonna be further discussion down the road.
And then,
Do I remember that?
Question.
yes,
Are we gonna be provided with up-to-date zoning, the walls of the zoning for the planning or for the appeals board?
You'll be provided with what we currently have.
Right, that's what I
We're
mean.
working on improvements.
Right, so I mean, I don't want the committee, to then all of a sudden, we don't have the manuals to look at if there's an appeal.
no, I don't feel that.
I think that our zoning manual right now is on the website.
It is.
So you can pull up the website and either download it and save it as a PDF or print it off.
But there's discrepancies on the zoning map and what is actually property zoned. And I don't want to go into a hearing and the only information that the citizen has is what the zoning map says and what reality is.
I think in situations like that, you're gonna have to look for the variances that were or were not granted.
Right, I want to make sure we have all the information on the committee.
Didn't we redo that
Good.
map?
Well, to
They-
redo your zoning map is a big process. We may have had it redesigned to look nicer. I don't know that we actually changed any zoning districts.
I thought there was some
You have to have a ton of
discrepancies
public
at the
hearings.
point, and they were corrected
Could be.
on the last pretty map that we had printed out that was color coded. That's my recollection, but that's some time ago.
You can always look at Hamilton County Auditor with dates
True,
on it.
yeah,
Well,
pages, yeah.
you can and, yeah. But I think our zoning map is what you would have to go by at this time.
Exactly.
Correct, yeah.
And I hadn't looked at it before, but I can tell you that there's stuff zoned on it the way it should not be. Yeah, we're working on that.
Any other questions? We basically have one more thing to review and in your packets. For those that have not been here, we had a student that addressed the village, I think it was last year, and came a number of times and designed a village flag. Kevin, I think you probably had more involvement in that than anybody, so would you mind explaining a little bit, because you're the one who made the recommendation that we would adopt.
So,
Motion that we adopted for them here.
You did? Yeah, I don't remember.
so the history is Benjamin Mitchell designed this with his grandmother, so did himself, representing different components of the Tri-State, Three Villages, Three Rivers area. It took a second nudge for us to come together. Ultimately, we voted to approve it for 1 year. There was some hesitation about, okay, this was unsolicited, or we're going to keep getting projects from everybody. Do we want to be in this business? I don't. And so we approved it on a temporary basis. That has not materialized. At a minimum, our year has elapsed, and I guess we don't have an official flag anymore. So this is resolution to adopt it on an ongoing basis. One issue that I would ask council to address, because this, I believe it says as designed by Benjamin. What we had printed was modified and that the seal, the village seal was added to it. So if we want to officially adopt it, should it be with that modification or without?
So you want, how would you change the wording?
To include the village seal. Okay. I would want the village seal. Because without the village seal, there's nothing on the flag that indicates, other than the Three Rivers meeting, that it's the village meeting.
I can support that for consistency. It's consistent with other municipalities that have their seal on there. Originally, I think the flag design is fine. I think it's technically sound. I think it's fine the way Benjamin designed it. It seemed to be the preference of council at the time that be modified in that way. That's the way it's printed. I would just make it official one way or the other.
I'm hesitant to adopt that flag as a permanent flag to represent the Village of Cleves, only because he did a great job, a lot of effort, and I can afford that. But if we're going to adopt a flag to represent the Village of Cleves, I think there should be more thought, more input, but other residents in the village give their thoughts and input to it. So that's the only reason I would be hesitant to adopt it as a permanent flag representing the village.
I tend to agree with you, other than I would want the village emblem on it for sure.
If we did continue to fly, I mean, we could have motioned to continue to fly it for another year, adopt it for another year or time frame. But yeah, the village emblem logo, I think it's the logo that's on it. It's not that.
Oh, okay, it's the logo.
It's the other logo.
But it says Village Cleves. I like our seal.
Where would this be?
It's currently on the flag placed out right out here.
At the maintenance building?
That's there too.
Is it at the waterworks as
That's what I
well?
thought.
There were three of them. There were 3 or 4.
Is there one down at the park?
There is not.
Do you want to table this and then come back with it rewritten, or how do you want to do this?
I'd be happy to introduce a motion to just modifying the saying, incorporating the village logo, current operating village logo, as a modification of the original design. That seems a bit wordy, but I
But you
don't normally
still
speak
want
in
it
the whereas
permanent.
either, so.
You still would like your motion to include a permanent?
I think we're missing the human scale of this if we vote for this for another year instead of for an ongoing basis. I think it was a good contribution. I think it's a fine flag. We've already implemented it. I think we're being overly cautious if we.
Did you solicit this, or was it just more of an idea?
Not solicit.
When you put 2, 1, 2 flags?
You can't fly above the US flag, it has to fly, it's below the Buckeye flag, I'm not sure.
On this building, we only have the US flag and then the Village of Cleves. We don't have a state.
I'll tell you what, I will make a motion to adopt resolution number, please help me.
14.
Number 14, a resolution as written, or making a motion for the Village of Cleves Council to formally adopt the village flag as designed by Cleves resident Ben Mitchell, with the modification that it included the village's current seal as originally intended.
I'll second that motion.
So we have a motion from Mr. Burns, a motion from Mr. Walters. Is there any further discussion?
I would support adding additional years, but I'm gonna struggle to support permanent.
That's
The
just me.
memo that says permanent.
It says to formally adopt as the village code.
So you wanna
So
take,
that's how that's permanent.
you wanna take formally out of it?
Kevin,
Well, he's
Kevin
got a
made the
motion and a second, we got to vote on it.
Correct.
Well, we are able to discuss now.
Yes, and I'm just letting you know where I stand. If I vote no, it's because of.
Much like your appropriations, you can yank this away, and that's why it floats your vote. But,
Once we adopt it formally, it would be hard to rescind that. If we adopt it.
And again, it's not like we're gonna be going and saying, we're gonna replace this flag, so we're gonna go open it up public for future flags.
If we want to have a bullet. To
Well,
me,
he's
the
got a
way,
motion,
to me,
he
the
got a
way the
second.
motion is worded, the way it's written, it sounds like we're adopting that flag as the Village of Cleves official flag.
That's the way I understand it.
That's what we put in there.
Well, you have a motion on the floor, so we probably need to vote and figure it out.
And a second.
I second you.
So we need to call the roll.
And Mr. Burns,
yes.
Mr. Walters,
Yes.
Ms. Bolton,
Nay.
Ms. Meister,
No.
and Mr. Williams.
Motion passes 3-2. All right.
Fine, majority rules.
Is there anything else from the public? Anybody want to make any comments? No more comments, then I would like to have a motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion to adjourn.
First was Ms. Meister, who did the second?
Todd, I don't know.
You did the second, Todd?
He said it with enthusiasm.
Yeah, I couldn't tell where it came from.
I'll
We're gonna call the
second
roll.
that.
Mr. Burns, Mr. Walters,
Yes.
Ms. Bolton,
Yes.
Ms. Meister,
Yes.
Mr. Williams.
Yes. Thank you very much for staying.
Thank you.
You're gonna need a bigger room soon.
I just have to see if I'm sitting there.